Well, hello, kids, and welcome to the True North Eager Beaver special coverage of Election 43, Ontario.
This is the first live show for us
Yeah,
in camera. Something a little bit different for us for today. So playing around with some stuff, and hopefully it works out okay. We'll see. We'll record the audio portion as well, so we'll have a good podcast to release later. But this is going to be our first very live show. So let's see what we can do with this province. And I know that a bunch of folks that were on the Dean show, watching Dean's show today, as I did, were kind of blown away with some of the things we heard today. Wow. Like,
yeah,
wow.
Wow.
Like bombshells. Like, holy crap.
yeah. My only question is why did people wait till 2 days before the vote?
Well, I guess he's waiting on the Klondike Papers to come out, amongst other things. So it's,
Yeah, man.
you know.
Okay, so we've kind of sort of had a campaign.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
Well, let's just say, I don't know. It's like nobody showed up for it. It was kind of weird.
It was an uneventful event.
Right. Well, we commented about 2 weeks into our podcast, right? That it was basically a snooze fest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then sort of Del Duca started showing up a little bit. Mike Schreiner came around and was like landing haymakers.
He really impressed me on this entire campaign and during the debate. It's like, this guy's a serious guy. I
Yep.
liked everything he had to say, the way he was completely focused, laser focused and on point. So, I think they might pick up a few seats in this election.
I would hope so. Polling says no, unfortunately. Parry Sound Muskoka was getting close somewhere about a week ago,
Mhm.
but it seems that it's sliding again. But you never know, right? Because
You never know.
when you get into the last 3-4 days, sometimes there can be something that there is a swing that happens, and that probably won't be picked up. So, and it could also just be that people are just quietly at home saying, you know what? Yeah, your time is coming. So we don't know. We won't know till the votes are counted.
Well, you saw the polling station in the lobby, eh?
Yeah.
It's real easy for me to vote. I literally could go down in my underwear because the polling station for provincial elections is in my lobby, which is really cool, actually. It's like, could it be any easier,
Me too in my building, actually. That was kind of fun. So I was able to do that pretty easily. I was the only one there when I went, though.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, there was a couple of people. Like when I got home from work, there was 3 or 4 people ahead, and I was like, no, I want to go upstairs and continue to listen to the show. And then as soon as the show is done, I'll come down and vote. So that's what I did. Yeah.
So if there was an award for most impressive, it would certainly be Mike Schreiner from the Greens. I mean, that's hands down. He performed very well.
Oh, yes.
That was to be expected if anybody's been paying attention to him over the years. I mean, he's a quality candidate and he's a serious person. People keep on saying all the time, I'm hearing this comment, gee, if he only led a party that could actually win some seats, he'd be going somewhere.
I agree.
But I'm just thinking, with the performance this time of Miss Horvath, if people were voting on merits, the Greens would have made a very good case to replace the NDP as our, balance of power party.
Well, I don't know if you saw earlier today, there was a photo posted. I'm going to see if I can find it on the Twitter of, oh man, there was some pretty nasty things said about it, but it's still kind of questionable. A picture of Andrea Horvath's son posing with an AR-15. He fancies himself a rapper. He's 27. He's not 17. So that doesn't help her cause any. And I think he might quite literally need some mental health supports, but that's just my judgment from afar based on what I saw online.
Yeah, I didn't see that, so I can't really comment. I don't think that should very much have an impact.
I don't think it will. No, I really don't.
Kids are always very different unless the children are actually in politics or getting involved.
Right.
I don't really like to go there.
And he hasn't suggested overthrowing the government, unlike Dougie's daughter has.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we won't talk about
Yeah,
her.
we're not going to get
She
into
gets
that.
enough press.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so and then I don't know the thing with the NDP with this campaign that okay.
Right?
Yeah, I'm seeing the photo now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
We're not going
I
to
don't want to
post it.
show that. No. The thing with the NDP campaign that I was wondering all the time, for some reason, it just seemed like they were not prepared for some reason,
Mhm.
which actually, Andrea Horvath, in all fairness, did have some bad luck. I mean,
Yeah,
first
she
of all,
did. She did.
COVID, and then twice trying to go to the north, and both trips got canceled one time because the plane broke down.
Which doesn't help.
No, does not help, and especially if there's a narrative already going down in the press, that kind of stuff. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
that becomes the
exactly.
story of the day, right? Or at least for half the day. But yeah, it just it's been 4 years of Doug Ford, and there just seemed to be no concerted policy focus. There seemed to be no concerted strategy to make a case against Doug Ford. And actually, this is the thing that's actually surprised me is that hardly anybody has been make. I mean, that guy today made a better case against Doug Ford
Yeah, he did.
than anyone else. But there was also just very much not an attempt, and I can't understand what the strategy was on the part. I mean, I could understand from the Liberals or the NDP wanting to make it about policy first at the beginning because in the polls they seem to be a little neck and neck. And, they're doing the fight for who will be the change option should there be a change,
Right.
coming. Um, but at some point, I mean, especially since the campaign was only about like 4 weeks, you have to get through that part relatively quickly. And then you either have to start making the case for which, I mean, in a 28-day campaign, you only need enough time to show that you have a serious platform and that you've thought about stuff.
Mhm, mhm.
And one person clearly did.
Well, yes.
Like this had a great platform, very technocratic. I mean, he knew his platform like the back of his hand and can speak to it. But somewhere along the way, it's like, where was the excitement about his policies? He did not show any excitement at some point around like week 2, week 3. He should have been he could have afforded to be a happy warrior here.
I you know, yeah,
I just,
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
especially if you're going in with a charisma deficit, which I'm sure he's aware of, because everybody has communications people around them. Why wouldn't you be showing some enthusiasm then in that case?
Well, that's a very good question.
Right? I mean, everything was drab. The first person who would have just been a little happy or flashed a smile somewhere along the way probably would have got a lot of press because this was dour.
It was pretty dour.
Yeah.
Just a little bit maybe.
And then somewhere along the way, when it seems that, well, Premier Ford Edsel figured he had it in the bag, there seemed to be a turn in the campaign. Um, Caryma certainly felt the brunt of it.
Yeah, a little bit of authoritarian dictatorship, fascism, sort of. It's all of the above.
Yeah. And then Sean O'Shea felt it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, and then Caryma felt it again.
Uh-huh. Yeah. The second time it's sort of like who's holding your database when she got the second invitation?
Well,
Right. And she RSVPs again.
and they said,
Like,
"Yeah, you're invited. Come. We can't wait to see you. Looking forward to having you."
yeah. I
Strange.
it sounds like luring to me. I just can't.
Almost, right?
Almost, right? Let's just bring you here and let's see what you do. And should you get a little uppity or show that you're a little overeducated, well, we'll take care of you. It had
Well,
that vibe to it, especially when that last
but they didn't
video.
even let her in the door, though.
Yeah, but that last video at the end, the see you later little comment, like
Yeah.
this with that little smirk.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I I heard stuff under there. There was like some silent letters.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It
Well,
just
Caryma will be joining us later this evening.
Absolutely.
What 8:30-ish, something like that?
I
8:00 or 8:30, I can't remember. I know David Moscrop will be joining us this evening.
yes.
We got a bunch of guests coming in tonight, so this should be a lot of fun. And we're going to try and make this as much fun as we can because, after all, it is politics, which tends not to be the most joyous of events. And
Especially
yet,
these days.
well, but it really has become a spectator sport. And when you consider what's going on, my goodness gracious, you know.
Well, let us put it this way. I mean, if it was about entertainment, it's a Michael Bay blockbuster, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Everything gets blown up.
Yes, we just lead someone to land on some type of asteroid, right? And I mean, holy cannoli. I mean, just today, I mean, the news about Lisa McLeod, like,
Mhm.
okay, and this reminds us very much of like that
Wait.
conversation we had of the geofencing
Oh,
of
the
Lisa McLeod.
geofencing. Yes.
But
Sorry.
remember when we had David Kleiman
Yep.
on like this, and they were
Yes.
talking about that other, I don't think that person in Alberta was from the UCP party. I think it might have been from another party, but they had her tail too. Or was it in
Mhm.
Manitoba? No, Alberta. Yeah.
Alberta. It was
Yeah.
Alberta. Yeah.
And it's like, is all of a sudden like, wait a minute, like once is like WTF, twice is whoa,
Now we're starting to see a
whoa.
pattern here, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 3 for a pattern, but twice should make your ears prick up, right?
Yeah.
Right? And, so I'm not comfortable with that. And, and then, not letting people in. I don't know. I just somewhere it took a turn where it seemed to be very, very, very clear that if this guy gets another majority, it's like there will be no questions for the next 4 years. It's very thuggish.
Well, and not only that, I mean, come on, he's got how many media companies in his pocket?
Yeah.
And that's what David Wallace talked about today. Now, we're not really going to get into that because we haven't had a chance to really talk to David yet, but I'm hoping to get him on the show at some point in time. Not trying to steal Dean's thunder at all. It's just we are a political show, and this guy's talking about some serious political stuff. So I think it would be interesting to have have him in someday.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Provided we're going to have to get him on soon, though, because some of the things he said leads one to believe that he might not be on this earth for much, a whole lot longer. He's in remission right now. Hopefully it stays that way. Hopefully he lives a long and fruitful life. But he's got people who
have a vested interest in not wanting him to speak.
That's right. Yes. He knows where the bodies are buried. All of them.
Almost.
Yeah.
And where one more may have been.
Well, almost, yes. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, watching him today, and I'm thinking, you know what? Okay, I am in a bit of a biased confirmation echo chamber because everything he's saying, I have no reason to doubt. I have every reason to believe it, but nobody's ever said this before.
Yep.
Now, do I start to sound like one of those whacked out conspiracy theory guys? Well, there's always that possibility.
You probably sound like one,
yeah.
Yeah.
But the same token, I'm not saying it's absolutely true. I'm not saying that. But here's a man who, if he's an actor, he's an Oscar-winning actor because he was convicted in every word he spoke. He was serious. If he's lying, it's because he believes his lies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was lying.
He seemed,
maybe some hyperbole in there, but I think the guy was pretty authentic. So we'll definitely want to follow up with him.
Well, in terms of facts that we do know,
mm-hmm.
the story seems to dovetail well into facts that we do know.
Oh, yes.
So, in terms if you're looking for obvious inconsistencies, it's kind of hard to find them.
Well, look, I've been saying for over 30 years that the Reform Party was a group of religious zealots, and I even dropped an N-bomb at the beginning. I said Preston Manning, he's one of those fellows from Germany from World War II. I'm not saying that word on the show because I don't want to invite any of those people. Oh, David is here in the waiting room.
Oh, fantastic.
Should we bring him on in?
Well, why not?
Yeah, come on in, David.
Come on.
Join the party.
Hey there. How are you?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Good.
I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm excited about this, but I have a feeling of
just general trepidation.
Yeah, pretty much.
A little bit,
David, first question, I guess the obvious one. How are we too dumb for democracy this time?
Oh, we're just getting right to it.
Yeah, why not?
Well, no, I got a question.
Okay.
Before we dive in,
no,
what's in the glass, sir?
Ah, yes.
This is not sponsored. This is free advertising for Elijah Craig, small batch.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, very nice, very nice.
The father of bourbon for the grandfather of all disappointing election night. The father of bourbon for the grandfather of all.
Yeah, that seems to make a lot of sense. Yeah.
It's that, it's funny is the book. So the question is in reference to my book, which somewhere here I'm supposed to, you're supposed to promote it, but I don't think I can find it somewhere. I got one copy on a shelf here somewhere. But it's funny because if you were to make a list of the things that you would think people cared about in an election and a democracy, it would be things like, well, we want accountability, we want debate, we want substantive policy, we want to make sure that our representatives and the incumbents who are up for election are in a space who are trying to meet the people where they are, responding to our questions and our concerns. And we got basically none of that in this election, right? We had, folks roughing up protesters, hiding from the press, hiding from the public, not having a platform, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And everyone sort of said, whatever. I mean, they couldn't care less. It was all vibes. It was no substance, all vibes. And it looks like it worked. And so in a sense, we were given nothing and we were happy with it, at least a plurality of people. Although it's important to note this, Ford will presumably win tonight with something like 36 to 38% of the vote, maybe slightly higher. Mm-hmm. That still means that something like 60% of people would prefer someone else. And that's not even counting folks that didn't turn out. So it's not exactly like the entire province was super keen on Doug Ford. It's that we had an electoral system that was, keen enough for those who turned out to return him. And we're just going to have to live with that for another 4 years, assuming he gets a majority.
Oh, that's just disturbing and so
not great.
No,
not great.
Not at all. But look, I can understand the part people saying that, okay, we want COVID to be over. Let's not rehash this. We should have. People died.
Yeah.
Way too many than should have, right?
Yeah. And every single attempt at reopening was completely botched, costing us more lives and billions probably.
Mm-hmm.
So, everybody's just sort of sleptwalk through this, and there's been zero accountability. And how do you hold an election and no one shows up?
Well, we do it all the time.
Yeah.
We do it all the time. We do it federally, we do it provincially, and it actually, maybe contrary to pop belief, it takes a lot to lose an election as an incumbent in this country. Mm-hmm. You got to work to lose. Yes. And typically it comes at the end of people being just extraordinarily sick of you. And that applies to the left in many cases. For instance, in British Columbia, the history of the NDP, there's plenty of examples of that. It certainly applies to the right in Ontario and Alberta. It applies to the center, federally with the Liberals, who have governed far more often than they haven't throughout the last century and into this one. So, well, not quite this one yet because it was dominated by Harper for a decade, but they'll get there if the pattern holds, and it probably will. So it's sort of what we do, and it takes an awful lot to dislodge them, and there's probably a bunch of reasons for that. One of them is that people's material interests in a lot of cases are being met.
Right.
Not everyone's, but enough. At least those who turn out. Their symbolic interests are often represented by parties. Ford's a great example of that. He's taken up the sort of faux populist mantle, and that's gone a long way for him. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, we have an electoral system in which parties are able to take, again, 36, 37, 38, 39% of the vote, target it, they're getting better and better at this, and return governments. They don't need to get 50% of the people, 60% of the people. They need to find 38% of the people in a handful of ridings across the province or the country, as the case may be, and get them to turn out. They don't want everybody voting. They don't care. They can what you call it is an efficient vote. They can just focus on the places that will return them. So it's pretty much a system that's designed for medium to large scale displeasure. But the answer is what are you going to do about it? What's the alternative? You push for PR, you push for better parties. These are extraordinarily difficult grassroots battles that you're up against a system, and you're not getting it. So it's tough, and so we muddle along.
Well, during this entire campaign, the one question that nobody in either media or even in the debates asked, and I'm going to go into the Skippy the Wonder Pigeon voice. Where's the $5 billion, Doug? The $5 billion. Where's the $5 billion, Doug? Where's the $5 billion? The $5 billion. Where's the $5 billion, Doug? The federal money, the $5 billion. Where is it, Doug? Nobody, you know.
But nobody would care. I mean, here's the thing: is that the stuff that you would expect people to care about hasn't really been mobilizing people, right? Dodging the media, roughing up protesters, hiding from debates, losing 5 million, killing everybody's or letting die everyone's grandparents, neglecting LTC, underinvesting in healthcare, underinvesting in education, underinvesting in disability support, underinvesting in minimum wage and the workers, not being able to get stickers to stick and license plates to light up in the dark. I mean, that seems to have resonated with a handful of people, but certainly not enough to motivate them to dislodge the government again. Unless you account for the fact that actually, 60% of people would prefer not Doug Ford, but certainly not a plurality of vote switchers that you would require to dislodge him. And so the people just aren't fed up. That stuff for many people is abstract. And then they look at, even though for other people it's extraordinarily real. And then they look at the alternatives and they look at Stephen Del Duca and they say, I don't really know him. I don't know what he's about. Doug Ford tells me he's Kathleen Wynne. They look at Horvath and say, well, she's been around for 10, 12 years. She's Bob Ray, I'm told. I don't trust the NDP. I better stick with the guy that I know.
Right.
And then here we go, right? So you end up with the same thing. And so the $5 billion doesn't, people are like, it's a lot of stuff was happening and maybe that was a little bit dodgy, but I don't know these people. I'm told that it's going to go back to the bad old days of the Liberals or the NDP, and I can't countenance that. And that's probably enough to scare folks into the status quo. But I will say this real quick. Doug Ford's time will come. If you look at the history of voters in this country and provincially in many cases too, you get, a first election, you win a second election, third, fourth, people get a little bit frustrated and they're ready to vote the bums out. And federally, for instance, look what happened to Diefenbaker. Look what happened to Mulrooney. Look what happened to Chrétien Martin. You win until you don't win, and then you lose. You really lose.
Well, effectively what took place in the last election, right? People had been fed up with the Liberals. And I think, I don't know if people were fed up with the Liberals as much as they were fed up with Dalton McGuinty. So he stepped down. Kathleen Wynne took over. I thought she was a huge improvement over him personally. But I think people were just so fed up and said, no, we got to change it. We got to get rid of it. That's it. It's done. And I think that's what happened. But sadly, they bought into a plan that wasn't a plan. I mean, they had no platform. They had nothing in the last election. A buck of beer. And I'm going to get beer in corner stores, and I'm going to rip out this. And all he did was harm. He punched down, as you always say, David. He punched down continually, and he's still doing it.
Yeah, here's the thing. Plans in politics are sort of overrated, right? We think that we should care about plans, and we think that everybody should care about plans. And then we're reminded that people care more about vibes than plans.
Right.
Either implicitly or expressly. And even when they care about plans, if you sort of sit down and say to them, okay, well, let's talk about these plans. What are the plans of the different parties? What are the trade-offs? What do they actually mean in detail? Most people don't really know, right? They're sort of like, well, he wants to raise taxes or lower taxes, or he wants to spend more, she wants to spend less, or whatever it might be. But when you press them on it, they don't actually really know what the details are. And that's not an intelligence thing. I'm not saying people are stupid. That's not it at all. It's that they're just not dialed in. They're not taking the time. They're not spending their resources on figuring this out because for whatever reason, it's just not worth their time and effort. They certainly could, but they don't. They have the capacity to. They don't exercise it. They go off of what they're hearing in the media, but in a fairly light way. They go off on what their relatives are saying, their friends are saying, what other heuristics, mental shortcuts are saying, people they trust. They say, well, if that woman or that guy, that person over there seems to think this party's okay, that's good enough for me, right? Or I heard it over at the corner store or whatever it might be, hanging out at the gym, and that's good enough. Or I'm going to vote the way I voted last time because it didn't turn out so bad last time, and I'm okay. And then you get more and more of that. But the fact is, we don't really expect our citizens or prepare our citizens in this province or this country to be active, deep participants in our democracy. They're extraordinarily passive, incidental sort of subjects of government, not or objects of government, not
Right.
subjects of government, right? And politicians are perfectly happy with that. They love that. It's far easier for them to do their jobs when that's the case.
But here's my thing. I understand the people. Why did the parties not show up?
That's a fantastic question. I just had to pause there. My dog, I have a dog. She's super anxious.
Oh,
She's very. I don't know if you can see her. She's the most wonderful little puppy I've ever met. But
Oh.
earlier today, she was had a little bit of separation anxiety, and she ate an entire frozen pizza off the counter.
okay.
I mean, Sam is all of us tonight, you know, eating. Presumably, most of us are cooking our pizzas or getting them cooked and delivered. She's eating just frozen. She's cutting out the middleman, just going right for the frozen. We gotta keep an eye on her. But you know, the parties. Well, they showed up to fight one another. The opposition parties. I mean, the Liberals and the New Democrats showed up to fight an election against one another.
Right.
Of course, for Doug Ford, that was perfectly acceptable because that meant there was limited attention paid to him, maximum attention paid to the Liberals and the NDP, which opened up a huge door for Ford to just let them go. You know, you're just like, all right, and that's like a bar fight. You're just like, nope, I'm out. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to step outside and let them do the brawl, come back when it's all over, finish my pint, which is effectively what Doug Ford's done. And the battle was, okay, well, you know, which of the parties can replace Doug Ford? And the answer seemed to be no one, neither of them. And then the implicit debate throughout the campaign was, okay, which of us can finish second? And so what you've ended up with is a battle for second, which is effectively what the election has been. And who knows? We'll see how it goes. It's looking at this moment like it could be the NDP. The Liberals could, in theory, do it. But the question is the parties are probably asking themselves, and this will come from the spin masters later. So watch for this tonight as we see the results. What counts as a win? Because you think a win is a win, but that's not true.
Right.
A win for the Tories is a majority government.
Absolutely.
What's that?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
It has to be majority or nothing.
Exactly. A win for the NDP is going to be holding on to official opposition.
Right.
And a win for the Liberals is going to be regaining party status, official party status. That's what the parties will call a win. And we'll just go through another 4 years of this. That's the party system that we have in Ontario. The election is a function of that. And the electoral system is the election is a function of the electoral system. So, you know, the structure and the rules are going to dictate a lot of what's done and the outcomes. And look at the party system, the fact that we have 4 parties, I mean, 4 real parties, who have seats, which you could say. And we have an electoral system, first past the post, that forces voters to make difficult trade-off decisions and allows parties to form government with 36 to 39% of the vote. And that's them's the brakes. It's not great, but there isn't a groundswell among the population to change it.
But how do you lose focus that way? I mean, isn't the point of the election to try to finish first? What happened along the way? Do they just really hate each other that much? That
I think they do. I mean, I think they do. And in some sense, it's a family affair because they really are trying to occupy a similar space. The Liberals and the NDP aren't the same party, but they are closer to one another than certainly than either of them is to the Ford government in many ways. And in some ways, the Liberals are closer to Ford than the NDP. But in general, you could lump the NDP and the Liberals in this province together as a sort of like liberal center left coalition, who in theory under PR would be more likely to govern together, depending on the leaders perhaps, than they would with the Conservatives, right? And NDP folks don't like to hear that. But the fact is, they're all liberal parties. The provincial NDP is not a socialist party; it's a liberal party. It's a social progressive party. It's a social democratic party. It's not a socialist party.
Right.
We don't really have socialist parties in this country. Not mainstream popular ones. And so they spend time trying to distinguish, you know, themselves from the other who are fairly close to them. And that's not going to cut it when you're up against Ford. And so here we are. It's again, it's a product of a structure that pushes the parties in this way. It's not great.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do, right? Like the question is, what do you do? And this is a debate I've been having with myself and with folks on the left lately. Like what electoralism, using the electoral system to produce change, I think is extraordinarily important.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's not sufficient on its own. And we've seen that time and time again. And so, I mean, I took a little bit of heat for being a little bit dismissive, online, because I was really irritated and frustrated. But social movements, activism, protest, stuff outside the electoral system is extraordinarily important. That activism is absolutely central. And I understand why people say, I want nothing to do with this, and they just check out. But the fact is that in many cases, you need to take all of that energy, all of that movement, all that organizing, and cash it out somewhere. It's like, well, where do you cash it out? In a lot of cases, it's the electoral system. But so we've got to find a way to get that energy, that movement, those ideas, those people, and translate it into electoral outcomes so we can get policy and law. But the onus is going to be certainly just as much on the parties, especially the NDP, as it is on the folks who are working outside the electoral system, because it seems to me that the NDP isn't listening to the social movements and activists who are trying to push them to be better. That's true federally, it's true provincially in many cases too. And that's not good enough, especially right now. So I hope they're going to have a long think, a deep reflection when this election's over, and say, something's got to give, and we need to go back to the grassroots. We need to go back to activists and to our folks and listen to them and come back and do better. Give them a reason to turn out.
Right. So,
Agreed.
Absolutely, 100% agreed. I mean, we've been saying this for the longest time, right? We've been trying to get people to understand, that, for example, voting in party leadership races is probably where you're going to get more bang for your buck. I mean, if you want better, that's where you select the candidates that are going to be on the ballot. If you want better quality candidates, start there.
Yep. And also, mobilizing candidates in your riding, right? I mean, and taking over executives. There's an active debate about just how much you can do with electoralism. And if it's going to do anything, it's going to be because people have gone in and said, okay, we need to remake these parties. And that happens by taking over executives at the riding level. It happens by getting better candidates at the riding level. It happens by, as you mentioned, electing leaders who are going to better align with that sort of grassroots, dare I say populist, because it's not an inherently bad word, populist, populist politics. And I think that's doable. Of course, people will come back and say, well, then why don't you do it? And of course, the answer is it's inconsistent with the job that I do. And you got to kind of pick, right? And this is what I've chosen to do. And people certainly can ignore me and not follow this advice because I think it's ineffective, inappropriate, or simply inefficient. But I think it's probably true. But the fact is, there's a lot of people out there who are very smart, very dedicated, doing very hard work, who the party should be listening to because they could produce a better party and better electoral outcomes. But that requires, the consulting class and the party brass who've been there for a long time to listen and to sometimes step aside, which can be sometimes a challenge for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing we don't really have. I mean, we don't really have a strong tradition of grassroots mobilization, sort of a Stacey Abrams style, right? This is what we sort of have to start probably building now because the game is changing on us.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look at, we'll see with the conservative race what happens, but in theory, that's what Patrick Brown is doing right now. It's what Pierre Poilievre might be doing. He's certainly doing it rhetorically. He's getting a lot of people out to his rallies. The question is, okay, will that translate to memberships and votes? That's a separate question. But if he's building an organization from these folks, making them into volunteers, members who are going to show up, members who are going to be dues-paying parts of the party, then in theory, that's what the right is doing right now. And they're supported by an apparatus. They've got friends in the media who are sympathetic. They've got think tanks and intellectuals who are sympathetic. That's the sort of structure that you need, and the sort of structure that the left should build upon, because it exists on the left and in the center, but it needs to be built upon, and it's absolutely central to the endeavor. So it can be done. It needs to be done. It's not being done particularly well right now.
Well,
yeah, you can say that again.
Maybe a little bit. We're having some pizza by the way.
Yeah, Shelley. So Meat Lovers Pizza with.
I finished half of one earlier, and now it's going to be hours before we get the results by the sound of it.
Yeah, so it just arrived a couple of minutes ago. I don't know if you saw, the pizza guy showed up, so I paid him, and then we're gonna have a slice now. We'll have another slice later, and I don't know how late we're gonna go, but we'll see what the numbers look like and play it by ear.
Yeah.
Well, in theory, we should have known at 9:01. It looks like that's perhaps not going to be the case because there's some ridings that are going to be delayed in reporting because there were some incidents at trying to get everything set up and go as happens. I mean, this stuff happens, especially years into a pandemic. But I mean, I think we all kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah. We actually have Ryan Lindley. If you want to come on, Ryan, he was sending us some information from what's going
on here.
There you go.
Hi guys.
Oh, it's so nice to see his face.
Rob, I'm just here to bust your chops about your whiskey because I know your whiskey's better than mine tonight.
What's yours? I got.
Actually, it's just a standard old copper pot 40 Creek.
It's a nice Canadian whiskey, though.
Well, it used to be. It's now owned.
Can I just say, as someone who is a big whiskey fan of whiskeys, from this country and around the world, the best whiskey is the whiskey you like the best, and the best way to drink it is the way you like to drink it the best. I'm not a whiskey snob, I gotta say.
I hear you.
Let people enjoy what they enjoy. As a whiskey fan, I see my job as trying to, enable people to try things that they might come to like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
That's I build the community. We're all in this together.
I totally agree. I was a brand ambassador for a smoker company, like a meat smoking apparatus barbecue back in the day, and I had them send me, and this is where my one of my loves of whiskey came in. They sent me this little box, and you can actually take your glass of whiskey and place it in the box, and it's like a little smoke chamber, and you light whatever sort of smoky flavor you like, and it will actually smoke a single glass of whiskey for you. And I thought, this is so. Are we swearing on this podcast, boys?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
We okay? This is so fucking pretentious and so fucking like hipstery. I love it.
Was it good?
Loved it. Dave, I'm telling you, whenever we finally do the meet of all of us, I'm bringing the box with me just for you. Yeah. So you can try, because it's absolutely fantastic. But I don't want to. This isn't a whiskey show. I came with some. It could be
tonight. Giving the viewers and listeners some advice might come in handy. So go right ahead, guys.
You might be right, Douglas. You're not wrong. I just figured I'd come on to give you guys a chance to chew on your pizza, and I'd give you some details on. There's 27 polling stations in Ontario that are actually extending their voting hours due to the malfunction, and it's broad. Like, it's not just like certain strong, like literally the conspiracy theories have already started that these are conservative strongholds and they're trying to suppress the it's Dominion voting systems, and remember America and Donald Trump, and it's actually comical. But it's broad spectrum across the province. It's everywhere. But anybody that was affected, even if it was only for a few minutes, they are extending some polls up to 2 hours at this point. So you can vote if it was affected up until 11 o'clock in some stations. So I would suggest checking Elections Ontario social media. They have a list. Most mainstream media places have lists out right now as well. It just came out within the last 15 minutes. It's very breaking who is going to stay out until what time. Some of them are only 15 minutes. Some of them are 45. Some of them are 2 hours. So if you were affected and you're worried that you're not going to get your vote in, you will get your vote. Get in line. Go vote right now.
Yeah, and make sure to go to the Elections Ontario website. Go straight to the source.
Yeah. I haven't seen a media release from them yet, and I also don't have a reason for the outage yet. Either that has been confirmed by them. One thing that is really interesting is, speaking of Elections Ontario, is certain rules that we have to follow while we are voting. And that includes, in this day and age, you need to know that you can bring your phone with you, but you cannot take pictures. You can't do any sort of media from inside of the polling station.
And it's always been that way.
Absolutely. Even still cameras back in the day before Facebook and Twitter, you could never take a picture. Like, press was never allowed in to take pictures. You couldn't have your scrutineers with the camera, anything. Well, we all know that the rules don't apply to all, and that includes Stephen Lecce, who we see here voting today on his Instagram
Isn't
at
that
the
in,
voting station.
call
So if
that
you're
a
listening to the
violation?
audio, if you're listening to the audio only portion of this podcast, we've posted a picture of Stephen Lecce's Instagram, which shows him clearly behind the polling or the voting booth in the polling station with a big smile in his tight pants and voting for, I'm sure, himself.
Of course.
So
Are you sure you're gonna get that part right?
this is what you cannot do right now, ladies and gentlemen. If you want your vote to count and you do not want to be removed by Elections Ontario staff, do not do this.
No, don't. Your vote will be.
And don't take a picture of your ballot. I've seen some of that too. You're not meant to take pictures of your ballot.
Yeah.
And again, like we could debate how serious those rules are, and people are excited, they're enthusiastic, they want to whatever. It's just, I'm not super pedantic about it, but like it's not worth the hassle.
Well, you got to know damn well that if Stephen Del Duca did that, they'd be with a microscope, right? With a microscope.
So just
Beverly Hills Cop on him.
You know what? Unilaterally, nonpartisan, just leave your camera at home, go vote, and come home and talk about it on Twitter. That's fine. And there's our friends. So
if you absolutely have to take a photo, do it like I did outside the polling station.
And be nice to the poll workers. This is these things are run by people who are trying to do their best, and they are central to the machinery of this, and it works so well 99 out of 100 times. And there's some trouble. I went to the poll station today, and the worker asked me for a second piece of ID, which I didn't require. And so I sort of very gently said, no, you can just take my driver's license. And it was fine. We worked it out. But I know there were some people who were a little bit more frustrated, and it's been a frustrating 2.5 years of this whole thing, no doubt. But these people are out there doing pretty important work, and being nice to them is pretty important. Actually, you should be nice to almost everybody.
Absolutely.
Almost everybody.
Not Ford and Lecce, but most people.
A lot of people don't have that sense that they think that somehow the people that are at the polling stations are actually connected to a party. They're not. They're very nonpartisan.
They're not even allowed to wear the colors of the parties.
That's correct.
Well, I mean,
someone was sent home today. They showed up in a party color and they were sent home to change.
Yeah, I could vouch for that, because at the federal election, I decided to work at a polling station for the first time. Everybody should do it at least once. Everybody should do it. So, I mean, I couldn't do a show like this for the federal, and I couldn't comment for anywhere on Twitter, anywhere for 24 hours before. You couldn't wear party color. And if you think that just the process of how the votes are counted and then double checked and triple, there's no cheating.
Yeah. Best elections in the world. One of the things we do extraordinarily well. I mean, it's good. I'm as critical of the province in the country as anybody, probably in the entire world. But the fact is, one of the things we do extraordinarily well is run elections.
Oh yes,
agreed.
Elections Canada are quite literally second to none. I mean, when was the last time you ever heard of? That's an incorrect ballot or a spoiled. Not a spoiled ballot, but a fake ballot, or somebody voting under a dead person's name, or something to that effect, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's not something that's mainlined here up until now. I'm sure after today, when you open Twitter tomorrow, and you open conservative Twitter tomorrow, I'm sure all the stories will be there of people with guns forcing you to vote for liberals and progressives. It'll all be there tomorrow. But as of I think you're absolutely right. Up until now, we're actually known worldwide as a democracy that has one of the most secure, stable voting systems in the world, and I'm proud of that as a Canadian. And absolutely. I think everybody should be, no matter what your party stripe is, or if you even have one. Just be proud of the fact that we're lauded as one of the best. So,
and do you know what the secrets are? I mean, one of them is that our politicians, for the most part, not entirely, but pretty close, don't politicize it. So there is a respect for the norm of you kind of stay away from Elections Canada and Elections Ontario, Elections BC, Elections whoever it might be. That's not universal, but it's pretty good. Point one. Point two is not too much technology.
No.
They have automatic tabulators in some jurisdictions. Ontario, for instance. So if you went today, you would have seen, your thing is fed into a machine, but you mark an X with a pencil or a Sharpie. We had Sharpies today. I was used to pencils,
Yes.
Sharpies.
Yeah,
But you
that's
mark it with a pencil or Sharpie, you feed it in, and then people go through and they check it. I remember being in front of Parliament, a parliamentary committee a couple of years ago talking about this. And one of the questions they asked us is, should we look at e-voting? Should we look at online voting? And the consensus was, don't go anywhere near that stuff.
Yeah.
We can make voting more accessible. That's very important. There were some accessibility issues today I saw online from folks who had issues getting into buildings. These things happen. They need to be dealt with and taken seriously. But like, one thing you don't want to do is go into e-voting, to go into online voting. It's just not worth it. You can't secure it. And anybody who knows anything about this stuff will tell you it's impossible to secure entirely. Is it really worth losing an election potentially to that? We've seen what happened in the U.S. in 2000, 2004, and 2016. Big no thank you.
Sometimes analog is better.
Absolutely.
Well, you can see all the analog I have behind. David, you've got my books are in my bedroom. This is vinyl.
I just thought they were really thin books.
No, all records. Well, I've been a DJ for 42 years, so
There's nothing wrong. All of our vinyl are downstairs right now. The books some of them are up here, but they're all downstairs. And can I tell you? So my partner Meg got the Harry Styles LP the other day. Man, first of all, what a great album. I've been thinking about that a lot. There's vibes in that album of like Vampire Weekend and like a little bit of like very subtle Billy Joel and Beatles built into it. I'm working on a
huge Billy Joel guy.
But it's so good. I've got a Project turntable, a couple of Paradigm monitor speakers, and let me tell you, what a fantastic album.
Wow. It really is a great record. I listened to it front to back the other day on one of the streaming services because they're not paying me. I'm not going to say their name.
Attaboy.
But yeah, I listened to it. And his previous record, the first time I heard the lead-off single, I think it was on SNL. He played it live just before the record came out. Or it might have been the James Corden show. It was one of them. And I was kind of like, what the hell was that? This is not this One Direction boy band. This guy's an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got chops.
Oh yeah, he does. And I love. I don't know if you saw him during. I know we're a little off topic here, but it's a long night. I don't know if you saw him during Coachella when he had Shania Twain on stage.
Yeah,
I know. Really cool.
Man,
he
I feel
brought
like a
Shania
woman.
Twain out, and he did a little speech. It was really quite adorable. I like the kid's music. He's good. He's good.
Very good. That's really good. Somebody in the comments said we need another We Didn't Start the Fire, and they're absolutely right. It would be 27 minutes long at this point. I think.
Just the last couple of years.
Yeah,
we need new Billy Joel stuff. I mean, I know that he called it a day in the 90s on new stuff, except for he did a classical album that was sort of interesting, played by Richard Jew.
Yeah. Very fantastic. I love his I'm a huge Billy Joel nut. Just so you full disclosure, actually the most live performances I've ever seen by an artist is Billy Joel. Just so you're
aware. The best concert I ever saw was Billy Joel at the Syracuse Orangeman Stadium with 3.5
hours, no breaks. Yep.
He also single-handedly defeated Soviet communism.
Yes,
and he hates Ticketmaster and scalpers. I love the man.
I remember when he played in Moscow. What was that, like 86, 87, something like that?
Yeah, maybe 88, something like that. And
he did it all for Lena.
Yeah. He broke down the Iron Curtain.
And it's funny is if you listen to the documentary about it called The Matter of Trust.
Yep.
And if you listen to the album recording, watch the doc, it was a fairly subversive tour. Not just concert but tour. And if you look at the translator and things he sang, he did a cover of The Times They Are Changing. And he sort of said, this is one of my favorite songs by an American who was singing about a time of change in the 60s. Maybe that resonates with you today.
Mm-hmm.
Glasnost, Perestroika, Gorbachev, Soviet Union. And it takes a set of stones to go into the Soviet Union at that time and basically say oh, your country is going through the 1960s, a big revolution in values and rights. And I will close on this. I could talk about this all day.
Me too. Myself back.
The percussionist for one of my favorite songs, Allentown, which is one of the classic
great songs.
It's about there's a train. If you listen to the LP, ching ching, like the train sound, and the guy made the sound by taking a giant steel pole and hitting it with a mallet.
And that was it.
Yep.
That's it. Just talk about analog, man.
Yeah, it was if you get a chance, and it is politically sound for the conversation. So, folks, we are still talking about politics.
Oh yeah.
He was so like he was very oppressed. I'll use the word oppressed liberally, like everybody else does now, in Russia, to do a lot of things where that when he flipped that piano over, that was out of actual pure
Anger.
rage
Yes.
and
Yeah.
anger. He did that because he was pissed off because the Russians put like state people in the front row, and he
Party.
goes, I don't want these people here. I want fans here. I want them to, and nobody could enjoy themselves unless the state people weren't. It's a very telling documentary of what
We
happened.
put members of Politburo party in front row to watch big American rock star play piano.
That's it. That
But
was
he talks
exactly
about
it.
this too, right? He talks about like, it's hard to get energy going, and you're watching the guys in the big hats.
Yeah.
But the crowd, he's like, but eventually they sort of warmed up and did get going. And if you see some of the shots, it's pretty wild, and it's truly something.
Yeah, but I agree. We do need another "We Didn't Start the Fire," and I think that would be. You know what? Maybe that's something the Dean Blundell show will.
We
will
could
work
just
on
cover
that.
the last 3 years. Like
It'll
literally
be
just
an
the
album.
last 3 years, and it would be a full-length double album, 4 sides, and that's just from 2019.
You
That's
could,
it. I'm gonna jump out. If I find anything else, I will break back in with you guys if anything cool comes up. But Dave, good to see you. I'm bringing the smoke box. We're doing this.
I'm in. I have to
All
go
right.
as well. I got to go do another thing, but I'll and then keep an eye on this dog. Sam, come here. This is what.
Did I hear you? Did I hear right? Your dog ate a pizza.
Sam, come here.
Frozen pizza.
yes.
Frozen.
Charlie's up here with me.
Camera
Somewhere.
shy, Sam.
Oh, Sammy.
He's camera shy, as we all are. Come here, Sam.
Oh, that's a.
Look at this.
what a cutie.
Oh, look at you.
This thing.
Oh.
Good girl. He's a little full.
Well, there's look. See,
an entire pizza.
I swear to God, my dog heard me talking dog voice, and he's here. Yes, hello.
Oh,
Hello.
wonderful.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
There's Charlie Spaniels.
Terminal cuteness alert.
absolutely
Charlie
adorable.
Yeah, so he heard me talking to your dog, and now he's jealous.
Oh, what a cutie.
Hey, Daddy's talking to some sort of other dog out there.
That's right.
I don't-
How dare
Yeah.
you?
No. Doug.
Anyway, boys, it was great to
All
see
right,
you. I'll jump back in. Dave, love you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. See y'all.
Thank care, Dave. David, take care. Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Appreciate
cool.
that. Yeah.
Hoping to get ask Ryan if Ashley was going to be joining us as well.
Oh, she'll probably join in a little bit later.
Okay,
Yeah.
I hope so.
So here's something I'm just noticing on one of the headlines today. I saw this earlier today, and I scan the headlines during this show so we can bring it up. Ontario's right to disconnect policy takes effect today. So remember somebody the other day said, name me one policy the Ford government has brought forth that was good. That's it. That's the only one. That's the only one.
Mm.
I mean, the right to disconnect. So basically, if your workday ends at 4 p.m. and your company employs more than 25 people, they have to have a written policy about how you can shut off your email and ignore it. I mean, I've been doing that for years. Well, if I'm not being paid, I ain't working. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't provide free labor. Well, but
but this is a labor of love.
This is a labor of love. Working towards something.
Yeah. So, let's see. What time is it now? How far away?
Well, let's just check and see. I'll just check over here on one of the broadcast networks and see if we've got anything up there.
All right. So about the campaigns. Do you think, and it's something I wanted to ask David, but we got on other stuff. But that's okay. We'll ask someone else.
Yeah.
Might we be losing two party leaders tonight?
Well, I think I do think Andrea Horvath is pretty much done tonight. I think if she doesn't come in second, I think she's finished. And I'm not calling it for Ford just yet. I mean,
No.
remember who's controlling the polls, who's releasing the polls, and it's coercion. It's vote massaging, trying to discourage people. Well, if he's going to win anyway, why should I bother?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, that's what he's relying upon.
Yes, and we've been calling that.
He's relying upon your apathy.
Yep.
Don't be apathetic. Get out and vote.
Yes,
absolutely. And again, I won't tell you who to vote for, but I will say ABC. Anyone but conservative.
Yeah, don't vote for assholes.
Oh, no. Well, I tweeted something earlier today, and somebody kind of went, you hit the nail on the head with that one. I said, look, unless you are effectively a cis, het, white male, rich, you feel entitled, you have disdain for anybody who you'd think is lesser of you, that's the conservative Doug Ford voter. Yeah. If that person votes for Doug Ford, okay, I get it. Anybody else, no, you're voting against your own best interest. If you vote for this man, he's going to punch down. Remember that iron ring around the long-term care homes? Oh, he did. He put it around the shareholders, not around the tenants.
It's true.
Right? So, and let's not even get started on ODSP. We'll leave that up to Melissa when she comes in a little bit later on. She'll if you haven't listened to the podcast from what was that, Monday, Tuesday? When did we put that up? I don't
on the 31st.
It's been a blur of a week for me. I had a crazy work week. But if you listen to it, or if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, you'll get a chance to listen to her later this evening when she joins us, and she's got things to say. And it's an important message. It's one that needs to get out there. And we were really kind of pushing this message of get out and vote and don't vote conservative, because this man wants to kick everybody off of disability and put them to work. I'm not going to get into the details of it. It was in the podcast, and we're concerned with this current election that I'm monitoring on one of my other screens here. I have a 3-screen setup, sometimes 4 when I have a laptop open, and then a phone, and then I got a tablet, and he's got his phone. So we got lots of information coming in. Plus, we've got Rook is sending us information, Ryan's sending us information. So we're going to try and keep everybody up to date as much as we can. With that, another slice of pizza, sir?
Absolutely.
I'll grab it.
All right. So, kids, while we're waiting for our next guests to arrive, some of the things that I've noticed about this election, of course, is the fact that a lot of the conservatives, for some reason, just did not want to be interviewed or come out for debates. A lot of people have been referring to this as a peekaboo election. It even got so bad at some point that in order to have to make sure that some of the great unwashed didn't get close to him, they were actually holding events on rooftops. So just let that sink in. It's like, BYOL, bring your own ladder.
Yeah, good old Dougie. For the people. Well, not all the people, just the people that I want to be here, and everybody else can, piss off, basically.
Mm-hmm. And we've been noticing, that there are certain people from whom he does not want to hear. And there are certain people, obviously, throughout the 4 years that he certainly did not want to help. He certainly didn't have much love for any francophones. He certainly didn't have love for autistic children. He certainly didn't have much love for kids in care. He certainly didn't have much love, for our family members who are in care.
Anybody.
Right. And one of the people who, this one person probably got as much press as, it got more press than a lot of the party leaders, not than the 4 biggest ones, but there are more than 4 parties. And got everybody talking about her. And I think it's time we should just say hello to her.
Let's
bring her on in. Caryma.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Enjoying some pizza.
Awesome. We got some za.
I see that. I am in the wrong room, obviously.
You should be here. You should be having some.
A little shout out to Milano's. Good pizza.
Yes, absolutely. Caryma, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
We're really good. Happy to have you here. How are you feeling tonight?
Well, I think polls should be banned. I don't think there should be polls. I think that it really disheartens people, and it ends up being influential, and you can't actually measure that because how? So that's my thinking. And, I've been getting some weird messages throughout the day about irregularities at polling stations. So I don't know, how much to read into that. I'm currently in I see nefarious activities everywhere I look. So that's my thoughts, and we're in for a ride.
Now,
a little bit, yeah, a little bit. I agree with you. No, sorry, just give me a sec. I do agree with you about the polls thing. He might disagree because he likes polls,
but not like this.
No, okay,
not the way they were used this time.
Right, good, because this was done as an influence thing.
Yes. Yeah, there was a clear difference this time because I'm sorry, you can't have the thing with I'm a little pissed off at Delta McGuinty because he's the one that made the minimum election time so short. There's not enough time for, if you don't have a stumble within the first 2 weeks like this, you get the first 2 weeks and then you just coast, right? And I know a lot of people didn't like it, but one of the elections I liked the most was the one that Stephen Harper set that led to his demise because he said it really long and he thought that he would have a lot of money and a lot of time to
backtrack. It blew up in his face.
But that gave time for stuff to happen, time for us to see, an actual longitudinally, let's say that way, how you hold up under the stress and under the pressure, and he couldn't hack it, right? And I'm just 2 weeks and you go into the bunker and nobody does anything to smoke you out. How does that happen?
I tried to do some smoking out, but
you did.
Really ineffective. But yeah, I mean, and as far as early voting goes, right? Like within sort of such a short time span, then you've cast your vote, which fair enough. And I don't know what the numbers were like actually for early votes. I don't think it was super high. And
I thought it was around 1 million, wasn't it?
Right, yeah, around 10% or something.
It was an increase over the last election by a good margin. Are you rocking a Hulkamania t-shirt?
I am.
Yes, I thought so. Cool.
Oh, happy memories of childhood. Now, something came out in the news that made my heart very, 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 very happy. It seems that you are going to court as the plaintiff. There's a plot twist.
Normally I am the one doing the representing. So always a fun opportunity to be the litigant. Certainly I will be defending against a trespass ticket. So that is a for sure thing that will happen. As far as being the plaintiff or possibly an applicant, I am exploring options. Because I think that, what unfolded in Hamilton, and for those who don't know, I tried to attend a Doug Ford rally that I had RSVP'd to. My registration was confirmed, and I ultimately got arrested for trying to attend. And Hamilton police issued this blatantly false statement that, in my view, tried to diminish the value of my political expression by portraying me as something that I wasn't. And even though
stories, were there not? One where you were a protester and the other one where you were a burglar?
Okay, so the burglar one was actually one of those websites that scrapes articles and then just runs it through a translator and then runs it back through a translator. So that was just a hilarious mix-up. Okay. I was not burglaring anything, just to be clear.
We do know that.
But yeah, the original release said that I was with a group of protesters and we were all blocking the road and I refused to go, which was just a lie, just a straight up lie. And then they kind of walked it back and said, well, actually, she was there to attend the rally and then refused to leave when they told her to leave, and so she was arrested. But it's weird to issue multiple press releases for a provincial offenses ticket, which, begs the question, who wrote this and why and to what end and what information were they using? So those are answers that I would like to find out, and court may be a way to do that.
Well, and I hope that you are able to punch up on this one.
I'll be swinging. I will be swinging that. If nothing else.
Well, I mean, come on. What they did was wrong on how many levels? Forget about what the police did, the multiple releases and the lies they told and how they tried to defame you. Leaving that aside, the sheer fact that you had a written invitation to attend a rally that everyone was invited to.
Not once, but twice.
Thrice, actually. It was 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times total.
Ooh.
3 times total. And he's like, no, you can't come in. Well, I have a written invitation that you RSVP'd and said, we can't wait to see you. Open to the public, to everyone. Nope. This is what he is.
So after the second time, now it's the third time, it's like, is there a legal argument to be made for some type of malicious intent keeping on inviting you? I mean, you're all over the news. Surely the database. I mean, and it's like, how many?
Yeah, and I wasn't using a fake name or like an alternate email address. I am completely transparent. And if I had received something saying you were automatically RSVP'd, but actually we hate you, so stay home, that's fine.
Yeah,
but let me know. So they didn't do that, and that they're. Maybe I can sue for the cost of my Ubers. I'm not sure.
Give it a go. Give it a go. Couldn't hurt, right? Be a lot of fun to try, at least. Drag it out in the courts a little bit longer, because if memory serves, you're getting this pro bono, are you not? From
well, so there's like the trespass ticket defense. I'll be working with James Bowie, who kindly offered to do it, right. on his own. And that's kind of in embarking on any kind of litigation. There's all sorts of things to consider. So that's why I haven't announced a course of action yet, because I am still figuring out exactly how I want to proceed.
Okay, we got a stat here if you want to let the kids know.
Apparently, as at 5 p.m. Eastern Time in Ontario, voter turnout was 33% at that point. So with polls open still for 4 more hours.
Yeah. So, at that point, because now we've got 50 minutes left.
Yes.
Except for areas that had power outages, and there's going to keep those open till 11 p.m. or later. So,
yes. So if you're in line there, stay in line past 9 o'clock. If you're in line, you get to vote.
That included early voting and mail-ins in that figure. So.
Okay. Oh, then that's
23% turnout.
Well, that's counted, right? So
and that's as of 5 p.m. too.
Yeah.
So people are getting home from work; they'll go cast their ballot then.
Yes. The way you were treated, and I mean, Sean O'Shea wasn't arrested, but I mean, it was,
he was accosted, I think, in a more physical way than I was.
Yeah.
My wrists were cuffed tight, but I wasn't like pushed around.
Yeah, okay. You weren't manhandled, as the saying goes.
What I'm seeing this, and like I said before, it just seems that if he gets a majority, it's like there will be no questions. He's just going to go into bunker. Decisions will be made. He'll come up once or twice every now and then to do something sunshiny that's scripted, and then he'll just vanish again. Because I mean, Lord knows he's won the political vanishing cream award already. Well, didn't 3 years running?
So 23% of the time he was in the House of Commons.
I mean, isn't that the argument that Jack Layton used to sink?
Yes.
Was it Ignatieff or Dio? I can't remember who it was.
Never showing up for question period.
But you can't get close. You can't get in. Certain people are being singled out for very special treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Dean pointed out in one of his articles, a few days later, there was an event where 3 white men came to the stage to protest something, and none of them got a ticket. But you didn't even get in the building, and yet you did. What could be the difference between the situations?
I could speculate on a few things. It definitely doesn't help that I look the way I do. I think that is just an extra irritant. It may speak to some level of efficacy in the work that I do, as far as getting under Doug Ford's skin, whether it's with comics or snark. I don't know. I don't know. I think that I am pretty gentle as a person, and maybe make sharp observations, but I really I don't go for the low-hanging fruit of his appearance or
right.
You didn't do that once, not ever.
sometimes maybe I lean too heavily into tropes with the imagery, but I think it's fair game because that's what he looks like. So what am I going to do?
Well, it's not like they're not leaning into tropes when they're dealing with you. I'm just saying.
Right?
Yeah, the unruly protester. Yeah, so I guess, I mean, I couldn't get an answer, right, as to why I wasn't allowed in. It was, we've seen your Twitter, we know what you're about, you don't have the right intentions.
What's
all
that
of
about?
which
That seems a little pre-crime. You don't have the right intentions, right? It's like a little
Right.
minority report there.
Yeah, it's very, it's very openly, and we don't care who knows it, that, this isn't about having sort of democratic discussion or debate or, and that wouldn't even necessarily be my intention as an observer at a rally. But they don't even want sort of eyes on them. And that's the real story, right? Like the fact
you're
that
just documenting. You're just observing and documenting.
Pardon me?
You're just observing and documenting.
That's it. So it's really just kind of, if you don't like the way you look, that's a you problem, not a me problem.
Right.
But that gets projected onto me. And the real story, in my view, is that this is a pattern of lack of transparency and accountability and heavy-handedness, right? So, the fact that I went and got turned away is significant in the sense that, that's unusual and kind of, bizarre, because I haven't done anything to warrant that. But it's insignificant in the grand scheme of things because it's a drop in the bucket as far as the shady shit they do.
Well, consider you were treated worse than the sausage maker who broke through the gates at Rito Hall with weapons in his vehicle. You didn't do anything close to that, and they treated that guy with kid gloves. Why is that? Oh, I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe because he looks like me. I'm just saying.
I need better hobbies, I guess. Sausage making.
Yeah.
On the list.
That's how you get away with it. Yeah, start making sausages, they'll treat you with kid gloves. No arrest for you. Bring us a couple of links and we're good to go.
There's a pig joke in there, but
Yes. Well, no, I'm not touching it.
We have Melissa in the waiting room to join us. Melissa, please come on in. Hello.
Hi.
How are
How's it going?
you? Very well. How are you? Melissa, meet Caryma. Caryma, Melissa.
Hi, Caryma. Can I just say, super fan for years. Just had to say it.
That's why we kind of scheduled it this way.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
Yeah, because you had mentioned it before we had chatted officially in the interview in our pre-chat that,
Yeah, I've been listening, and I just, what's going on with you, Caryma, is just stunning.
Before we start, we have a question from someone who is listening and said, Caryma, are you surprised that Rebel News was turned away?
Not entirely. So they got turned away at the kickoff event as well. I think after I had already left the building. And so it could be a couple of things, right? It could be an attempt to distance themselves from, the stink of Rebel media that it carries, especially considering that Doug was one of the founding contributors, right? So I understand wanting to put as much sort of space between himself and that. I think also they've been somewhat critical in their coverage of Ford, ironically, because they portray him as being too liberal or too in line with sort of the COVID rules. I don't ask me. But so it's possible he just doesn't like their coverage. And I think it's also plausible that, it's an attempt to say, well, it's not just that we turn away Caryma, it's, it's brought, and like the effect of that is putting me on the same list as David Menzies and his hat, which I find really offensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'm a hat guy, and that guy pisses me off. He's given a bad name to guys who like to wear hats. So.
He did bring a cheesecake yesterday, though, which I found a bit amusing.
Melissa, we recently did an interview and we talked about the issue of ODSP. And one of the reasons I wanted to put you together is because you had mentioned some stuff that curled our hair.
Well,
And
not mine, because there's none left.
and I don't know if Caryma had the chance to listen to it yet, but I was just wondering if you'd like to chat about it. And we have a different set of listeners and viewers, and you'd might want to talk about what's going on right under our noses. And COVID has been a good distraction for it. And maybe Caryma could give us an idea of what there could be legally implicated in all of this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, we went over quite a lot of stuff, so I'll try to kind of abbreviate it, but we're coming to learn about this US company that has been, Doug Ford put on this tender to do some changes to the social safety nets, Ontario Works and ODSP. And they're kind of making it look really great, but it's not what it seems. And these contracts went to this US based, really notorious, infamous, terrible company with a horrible history. And, it's been happening under our noses while, advocates have been screaming for attention, and the press haven't listened. They haven't dug into it. The politicians haven't either.
They've just kind of paved right over everything, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was
And
the highway metaphor. The highway metaphor. Dug in his highway.
Yeah, and like the alarming thing is that it's actually all out there in the open, but it's been so drowned out. And you can go on the Government Ontario website and find things. There's been articles, Press Progress has been really digging, but like advocates in the disability and low income spaces have been screaming. There's been a whistleblower come forward a few days ago, this close to an election, couldn't get a party to care, couldn't get the news to listen and find out. I'm really curious to see if we're going to find out what this whistleblower is talking about, but it sounds like it's somebody that has an inside scoop on what's really going on in Southern Ontario, where this company is already active. And they are known, they're across the UK, the US, and he basically sold out an entire division of our social safety net to this company who, they're linked to deaths and, like in the US, all taking over Medicaid and all these programs where it's all about cuts, getting people off the system, no matter how disabled you are, forcing you to work or lose benefits. Like that's their history elsewhere. So they're prettying it up for their image. They incorporated a company in Canada so that they could pretend to Canadians that they're a Canadian company, but they're already active across BC. They're everywhere. And no one seems to want to listen. And that terrifies me, because so much of it's already underway. And my suspicion is that the ink is dry on a lot more.
Now, what specifically is their mission?
So they basically are hiring this company, and they're sort of saying, we're going to reform the social safety nets. And they're portraying it like it's this good thing, which if it wasn't this company, it potentially could be a good thing, up to sort of farm out employment supports, which are currently internal, so that like low income people on Ontario Works and people on disability that have, the ability to do some work can get access to, job training and upgrading and education and stuff to get them into jobs, which can sound really great. But in the tender notice that Doug Ford put out, he made it clear that the client's the labor market, not the recipients that are in need in the province. And this company's history is to cut. And he has made it public over and over again. Everybody's heard it for years since he's been in power, that it's not income, like there's not going to be raises. They're not going to lift us from our 45% of the way to the poverty line rates, that he's going to invest it in getting us to work. But the other really, really horrible part is that he is going, it's right, it's all out there. You guys can all check it out. But people on Ontario Works, for example, waiting to be adjudicated for ODSP, which can take years because they fight you. It's right in there. He doesn't want you on, like, accessing ODSP. People on Ontario Works, for example.
Sorry, that was me. I fixed it.
Oh, okay.
I had a little problem on my end here. Apologies.
Oh, okay.
Please keep going.
Yeah. So he basically, there's some language in there that he uses to cauterize the flow from Ontario Works to disability, We already have, so many barriers and people that get denied that are clearly eligible. And he wants to cut off that. So to not have people going on to ODSP. So that's catastrophically dangerous and harmful. And then basically this new company you'll be sent to be assessed for what they say is your work capacity, and then try to get you into jobs, and they get paid to take you on as a client, and then they make more if they get you a job, and they get paid more if they get you off of the social safety net.
So they're motivated by profit to get you off the out of the system and into a job. And and if the job doesn't work out, too bad, so sad, I did my thing, then you're on your own.
Yeah. And I think one of the most horrific things for me is that they are, I use the phrase putting lipstick on a pig, right? A lot of these, systems that are really broken, they want to pretty it up for the public that don't have skin in the game and don't know. So when you try to say this is horrible and it's dangerous and it's terrifying, people think you're being dramatic because they don't understand. But this company in the US has a 68% rate of doing these work assessments on disabled people that end up being overturned at tribunals because they're not doctors. Their job is to make extra profit for their company and their investors by getting people off.
Their job is to find a rationale to say that you can work.
Yeah, and 68% of the cases so far have been overturned because they're not capable of working. So the fear is huge right now in the community, and it's a valid one.
Yeah. So Caryma, that's what I'm wondering. A corporation like this that has a 68% failure rate at telling people who are disabled, yeah, you got to go back to work. There's something wrong, right?
Absolutely. And it sounds to me like it's, introducing a middleman to sort of an existing system. And now you have these outsiders who are dictating how it should go. And their incentive isn't to ameliorate people's circumstances. Their incentive is to meet quotas and to get people off the system by hook or by crook. And, ultimately, I don't see how that doesn't result in people dying and in people, losing their homes or not having a place to live, like falling through the cracks in very, very dramatic ways that most of us may not be aware of, right? And that happens kind of silently. And, just skimming the comments here, like long COVID is going to be a thing. So this is a problem for a wider segment of the population that I think is currently aware of that. And the more it gets entrenched, the harder it is to undo that damage.
Mm-hmm. And Melissa, it sadly gets darker because once you're cut off from supports.
So the MAID program. So Caryma, I've been on TikTok and, had some videos blow up, and I'm really connecting into the disabled community in Ontario right now. And the amount of people who, before this alarming development that we're finding out with Ford, were already considering next year when non-terminal patients can access it. They're deeply considering it, and some have expressed they've already made up their mind. And then this news comes, and I almost get speechless at this point. Like, again, today I couldn't open my inbox because I know that everybody is waiting for these results tonight. And, and I don't want to be the bearer of the worst news, but my concern is if the ink is dry, even if he wasn't to be reelected or it was a minority government or whatever, if it's as deeply entrenched and a done deal as I suspect, with good reason to suspect it is, how do we undo that? Like, that's a big concern.
They could cancel the contract. It's not like this current government hasn't done that a number of times already. He could just whoever say Horvath or Del Duca or Griner got in, say, no, we're not doing this to our people. These are citizens of our province. We're here to take care of them. Tear up the contract. We'll pay the penalty. Get the hell out. Don't ever come back. This should be run by the provincial government. The public system should be taking care of this.
the health, the provinces have a mandate for health and education first, right? So I mean, this should not be. If there's one thing that should not be like privatized, it's this.
Exactly.
Can I say something here on
Sure.
that? My curiosity was I kept looking, and the only people I seen discussing this in the last 2 years is like Press Progress and a lot of really great disability activists and low income activists that were getting no love from parties or anything. But I did touch base with an MPP this week, and I asked, and they, basically the response that I got, I wanted to know why this close to an election, this would have been very powerful. And why were these parties not discussing it and making sure it was breathlessly talked about, especially in light of like long COVID? And, there are people that are not on disability that may end up there. There are autism families whose children are already being neglected, and they're going to end up becoming adults that require these income supports. So there's a lot of people invested in this, and it's a long-term problem. But I asked why is this not being talked about? I mean, you need everything you can right now to try to get Ford out. And I didn't understand. And it was explained to me that a couple of years back, they were talking about this US company in Queen's Park, and, they talked about it on the floor, and then it got drowned out. That's what I was told. It got drowned out. And then, I sort of got this litany of reasons, and they weren't all irrational. Like, it has been a very chaotic couple of years. There's a lot going on. But then I said, are you telling me that you have zero understanding? Like, you have no knowledge at all of what's gone on since that time you talked about it 2 years ago? Like, are you completely unaware? And the one I spoke to was completely unaware and said, well, I don't know at the highest level in the party if it's on their radar or not. But this person certainly was not informed and up to date on any of it. And that is so alarming, because if there's any power from any other parties after tonight, and it's not a majority, and it's not even on their radar. Like, I can see if you weren't able to talk about it in the noise in the last 2 years, but if there's any power from any other parties to do anything as an opposition or anything, but they don't even know what's happened, they're paying zero attention, that I'm thinking, you guys were talking earlier about why people don't turn out to vote. And that number you said, 33% or whatever, that have showed up as a 5 or whatever. Like, how are you going to get people out to vote when you're so quiet and you're that out of touch about things that there are millions of disabled and disadvantaged, vulnerable people in this province, and you're that out of touch? That scared me, to be honest.
How many people are on ODSP currently?
500,000.
There's 500,000 on ODSP, but there's a lot of people that are a step away from ODSP. Long COVID is going to bring new people, but it's not just ODSP. It's Ontario Works, and employment supports through them could be an okay thing. It could be very helpful, but this company's aim is not good. Low wage work is not the solution. Farming you out to these companies to be basically a slave with no benefits and leave you tired in poverty. But like, the disability community is in the millions, and at any time anybody else newly could become disabled. So it's not just the 500,000 that are on it now. It's like the legacy that if this continues, what is, it's going to affect a lot of people.
Oh, yes. Well, like you say, I tweeted out this morning the show we did with you the other day, and I said, look, this is one story of one person. There are 499,999 more just like it that we know about.
Right.
Because like you said, there's plenty of people who aren't on ODSP because you have to fight tooth, nail. You got to go to war practically to make it happen. Get it.
Even just today, the desperation in the comments, like, of people, so many stories that it's, they're in year 3, year 4, they're trying to, and then Doug Ford cut legal aid. So you couldn't get legal help to go to the tribunal and fight, even though you met all the eligibility and you're profoundly disabled from the day you applied. And it's always been that way, but it seems that if I'm just going by stories people are telling, it's taking even longer. And there's so, like, for every person who gets approved, how many give up?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And what has happened to them? Like, they're even more in the shadows than we are, right? I don't know what happens to those people, but they're out there.
Well, and it's a conservative thing, okay? And I say this because in the previous federal conservative government, when Aaron O'Toole, former leader, when he was a minister, he, under Harper's government, closed all the Veterans Affairs office across Canada. So people are coming home, battle-scarred, PTSD from Afghanistan. You got nowhere to go. You got to get in line online, get in line online and wait forever. And then, because they tried to do this to my father, they will try and dissuade you. They will throw so many roadblocks in your pathway to get what is owed to you, rightfully owed to you, to avoid paying you. They hope you will either give up or die.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a conservative thing. Punch down on the people who cannot punch up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was wondering when this is going to start to come down. People are going to be, given jobs that they can't hack. Is there any recourse for these people?
Are you speaking to me?
Caryma.
To Caryma.
Okay, I was going to say I don't know that.
Honestly, I don't know that either. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my God, that frightens the heck out of me.
The way it works right now, if you have, if you want to dispute a decision within the ministry, whether it's Ontario Works or ODSP, if it's internal, and you go to these tribunals, but they're getting harder to access and their backlog is growing,
and they're switching to a digital first approach, right? Which inherently excludes people who may not have access to devices or minutes or Wi-Fi or what have you. And that's not like there's issues with physical courtrooms as well. So it's funny, I've even like pre-pandemic, there were times where it's like, can't we just do a phone hearing? They can't leave their house. But right now it's the opposite battle, where, we're talking about doing a full hearing on a payphone or something. Like it's not. And these are all appointments, right, that are staffing these administrative tribunals. And there's a wide range of quality and expertise.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I don't have the stats to back up what I'm about to say, but I do remember reading somewhere that the burnout rate for people who work in that environment is incredibly high because they're always delivering terrible news to somebody who is not in a position to have terrible news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just the whole system is bad, just bad all around. Yeah. It's damaging to the recipients. It's damaging to the employees. It's damaging to the economy because it doesn't help anybody. And it just creates bigger problems. And for some reason, these conservative-minded individuals cannot listen to pure science, pure mathematics, and pure facts because it's all been proven that a universal basic income increases the economic output of the nation because everybody is putting into the economy. And your taxes are increased by so little, it's negligible to anybody who's earning a decent living. So,
yeah.
I just...
Like, that's not going to happen under Ford, that's for sure, because he had $1 billion transfer payment from the federal government earmarked for their most vulnerable. And it was all, no one's going to be left behind. And people that were using social safety nets got two $100 payments. If they were lucky, very few got it. And he sat on that money that couldn't be spent elsewhere with earmarked for that. So he just chose not to spend it. And he could have helped. And he made a conscious decision. It didn't get rerouted somewhere else. It just literally is sitting wherever I don't know if it goes back to the federal government or how it works, but you can't reinvest it somewhere else for whatever he decided. He just chose not to spend money that was earmarked for this. And so that doesn't give me a lot of hope right now. Like, there's going to be a lot of work to do over the next 4 years. And we're going to need a lot of allies to show up because, like Caryma was saying, like, it's hard enough to get people to appointments and do things. But then how do you get, we can't, the disability community is the least likely to be able to turn up and have the stamina to do big rallies or, do the in the ground work if it can't be from their homes. So if people don't start humanizing us and start talking about real issues, we're really, really going to be so sunk. And with MAID coming, it's devastating. And UBI is going to come. Like, it's inevitable. it's a kind of a global topic, and for good reason, and a lot more reasons than just this part of the social safety net. But it's not here today, and real lives are on the line right now. And like Caryma, you were saying, people would die under this, because when they fall through these cracks. And this company has hundreds and hundreds of deaths, lawsuits all across the UK, people unaliving themselves. So it's already happening with that company. So he chose them. He said, they're the company I want to do this. So they can spin it however pretty they want to spin it, but people might fall for it because they don't dig in. But it obviously can't be different here. They invested all this money. It's on their website. The company it promotes itself to look for new investments, like new investors, that they basically break down social safety nets globally. And they're already across Canada. So
it's all profit motivated. And don't get me wrong, I don't have an issue with anybody making a profit or turning a profit, but they shouldn't be turning a profit on somebody else's misery.
Mm-hmm.
Like healthcare, these things should not be profit making. Healthcare should be a loss leader.
Yep.
Right? It's not supposed to turn a profit.
Yeah. Like the life labs thing, like the lab work, it's all piling up, on the most vulnerable people. And that includes much more people than just on ODSP. Yep. Everybody's living paycheck to paycheck in this, like the vast majority of people. What are the statistics? Like you could last, 2 paychecks or something before you could face homelessness for employed, hardworking people. So, those people are least likely to have work benefits and most likely needing to pay out of pocket for these new labs. I don't understand any of it. I couldn't even watch the news today. Like, I'll wait and see what the outcome is, I guess, and then see what we're going to be able to do about it. But
our next guest has arrived, James DeFiore from Blackballed. If you'd like to join us. Hey there,
hey brother.
Hey guys,
how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, welcome. We're doing very well.
Great. By the way, I started to watch. I watched a bit of part 1 the other day of your doc. I'm gonna have to watch the rest of it. I didn't have the time to finish it in that one sitting, but holy crap, dude, that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. It was very stressful. I lost about 10 years of my life, and it was almost worth it.
Yeah.
Caryma, I know you have to go soon, but do you have any, after everything you hear, some stuff you could leave us with?
It's heavy. It's very heavy stuff. And, whatever the outcome is, like, we're still going to be here tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of regrouping and staying defiant. And even if it doesn't end up being a Ford government, there's still going to be a lot of work to do to hold leaders to account, because nobody's really impressed me, with their platforms or ability to capitalize on the most blundering, incompetent politician you could ever imagine. So, it doesn't instill a great deal of confidence, but still here, still kicking. And I think that maybe this will be an opportunity to radicalize some of us.
Well, you say that, and the most fumbling idiot ever. Like, you got Tom Brady throwing you the pass, and it's hitting you right in the numbers, and your name is Stephen Del Duca, and you drop the ball, or you're Horvath, and you fumbled the ball. It's like and I'm not trying to make them look bad. They did a pretty good job of that doing themselves.
Oh, it's terrible.
Right?
It's terrible. I mean, it's almost malpractice.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Caryma, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Bye, Caryma.
Bye.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon. So, James, I do have one quick question. This has been on my mind for a little while. Is that a Neumann or is it a Rode?
Your mic.
What? Oh,
your mic.
It is.
Is it a Neumann or a Rode?
It's a Samson.
Oh, okay, I know the model. Yeah, no, great mic. Good mic.
Which is ironic because I'm bald.
I have lots of.
Anyone have any good ancient Greece
jokes? Samson and Delilah.
Yeah. Or is that ancient Greece or the Bible? I have no idea. I really don't.
I think that's biblical.
That's biblical, I believe.
Biblical. Okay.
James, you were here in the conversation while you were waiting. What are your thoughts about this thing with ODSP? It seems like rather freaking frightening to me. Anyway,
it's Orwellian.
It is.
Orwellian. It's worse.
I think it's the corporatization of a social service. I think obviously it's the wrong move. That whole move to centralize, digitize, and private is meant for one thing only. It's to reward a corporation to lessen the cost of our outflows of ODSP and OWS. I think it's OWS. And it's intended to reward them for taking people off the rolls. This is not dissimilar from welfare reform that I think, was it Mike Harris's government?
Yeah.
Where they actually decreased. At the time, it was like, I think people were getting like $615 a month, and they put it down to like $525, and this was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it had a disaster.
$750 now. It's $750 now.
Yeah, like when you take inflation, like it should be like right. Anything below the poverty line, seems ridiculous. I was listening to you guys talk about, a minority government situation. I actually think the minority government situation would save the province from that, because I don't think the Liberals want to die on that hill. I'm certain the NDP doesn't want to die on that hill. There isn't anything that I think exists in the progressive conservative quill that they could offer that they would trade for that kind of approach. It would go against, and I mean, it's politics, so this is completely plausible and happening, but it goes totally against the stated principles of both those parties. He has 76 seats now, meaning the PC party. It's 63 for majority. Most people think he's going to get it. I don't like predicting, because it seems like whenever I predict, it just goes wrong. That's why I don't gamble. I mean, I would go to like a Harlem Globetrotters game, and it'd be like, well, I guess I'll bet on the Globetrotters, and the fucking Generals will win every time. I guarantee it.
The one of the two they win in a decade or whatever.
That's right. But I think that and Caryma nailed it too. The digital approach to it is to remove humans from the front line, so that an algorithm or a multiple choice questionnaire, or however it's going to manifest, is going to determine the achievability in a lifestyle that can allow people to survive. And that is like going to McDonald's. Like, you remember going to McDonald's for the first time and ordering off that touch screen?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't, because I don't fucking use it, because I'd rather not. I'd rather support the person that's making minimum wage by utilizing the human being. And so, obviously, this is not like that in the importance of it, but it is like that in the sense that it is a solution, kind of looking for a problem and looking in the wrong place. 500,000 people on the rolls. I don't know what the percentage is, but if you look at something like Florida, when I think it was Governor Scott a bunch of years ago tried to apply drug testing to all of their welfare recipients, thinking that the rolls were going to drop like 20%. Yeah. And it turns out that proportionally there's less addiction problems with people on welfare in Florida than there is people not on welfare.
That was Wisconsin, not Florida.
Turns out people like tea.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think Florida did it too, but even whatever state it was, the one that I'm thinking of, they realized that it was like less than 2% or something like that.
It was 0.2%.
It's the same for welfare fraud as well. So when people think that people aren't really truly disabled enough not to be able to do like full-time meaningful employment or whatever, it's some people think it's 2%, but I do believe it's about 0.2%.
I think you're right. Melissa.
Yeah,
definitely. So, I mean, and when you take a look at something like that, I mean, it's a different country, but you probably expect it to be worse, especially if it was Florida. That I'm thinking of. Not exactly known for the sanest behavior of all time. If anyone in the comments hasn't done this before, just Google Florida man, and you'll just be going down a rabbit hole forever.
Don't do it unless do it when you need a good laugh.
Yeah. And you've got time to kill.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that if this election goes really, really bad. I might just go do some Florida man digging.
I have some news that might make people feel a little bit better about the anticipation to this election result. The internal polling a few days ago, I have a source who's a pollster and another source who works directly for the NDP. And the internal polling was leaked from the NDP camp and the Conservative camp, but not the Liberal camp.
Yes.
And there's a reason why, and that's because it appears, that the Liberal support is patchy, and the NDP support not so much. If that holds, then the NDP will win a surprisingly more amount of seats than the Liberals would if they finished second, because the ideology between Liberal and Conservative is actually a lot closer than people think than the NDP Liberal. So take from that what you will. I was saying to Ryan and Ashley Lindley that I had on my show, I don't know, a week ago or something, that try closing your eyes and imagining an election with no polls. And think of how amazing that would be, because polls often don't measure the pulse of the people. They often move it. Enamored with looking at those numbers, and it influences how they cast their ballot. And
or to not bother to cast their ballot.
Correct. And the funny thing and the irony of that is that most people that don't cast their ballots would vote for Liberal, NDP, or Green. So,
Yeah.
Outside the disability issue, Melissa, what have been your impressions of this election?
Oh God, I don't even know. My impression of this election. I think that voters are burnt out. I think that there's a lot of apathy. There's either rage and huge passions on either side they're voting, but I think that it's been a hectic 4 years for a lot of reasons. COVID, hectic American news. Politics has been so dark. Everything is so divisive between people, and I think I think people have checked out this time, and I think that probably helped people that we wish it wouldn't have politically. That it's just a personal opinion, but that's kind of been my opinion.
I completely agree.
Yep.
I just want to, Rhiannon. Now, Rhiannon, please, if I mispronounce your name, is it Hinerman or Heinerman? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and I apologize. But this chat that you just put up that's on screen now, it's like, my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
The entirely disability system and social assistance system treats people unfairly. They do not give you enough money to live, but don't allow you to work to supplement or make life more enjoyable.
And then they claw back, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you can make, I think it's $200 and then 50% of the rest. You can't live with a partner or even a roommate without clawbacks. Can't get married.
They don't give you enough money to live alone, so if you try to fix that by living with a roommate, they claw some.
Yep. You've got to prove you're not in an intimate partner relationship with that roommate so that you're truly a roommate, which is completely degrading. I went through it, quite a few years back when I had an actual roommate, and it was a gay male. And, this person who was not on the system was just my roommate at the time. It was a brief roommateship, but they had to come in order for me to keep my benefits. As a profoundly disabled woman, I had to bring somebody with no involvement as my roommate to come in and did this really, really invasive, disgusting, humiliating, interview that I had to sit through, and they had to do it.
I know, because a bunch of years back, company I was working for, I used to work 60 to 80 hours a week for this company. So making a ton of overtime money. And then 2 years later, everybody's hours were cut. So I went from 60 to 80 hours down to 40 hours, eventually 20 hours, and then no hours. So after 4 weeks, when all your money runs out, what the hell am I going to do? So I said, just lay me off so I can get EI. Well, at the time, EI goes, well, it's going to be 6 weeks till you get a check. And I'm like, I need to eat and I need to pay my rent. So I went to social services, to Ontario Works, I think is what they call it. I have top secret clearance. They ask less invasive questions. I'm not joking when I say that. And here's the disturbing part. They asked me this incredible array of completely demeaning questions. And then, here's $750. I said, keep your money. $750 after they like literally.
It's not even. Today it's $720 for Ontario Works. Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
It's degrading.
So it's been cut back again. It was $750. That was 11 years ago. Today it's $720. What the? How do you survive on that? You can't. You know what's Hugh Segal, this great Canadian senator, a progressive conservative who is really the guy driving the UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Yeah, I don't think he's a senator anymore.
No, he's retired, but he was. But I still call him.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
He wrote a book called "Bootstraps Need Boots." Because quite frankly, you can't pull yourself up by the bootstraps if you got no boots on your feet.
Right.
And he's really been pushing for the last number of years a universal basic income. And it's desperately needed. And as you said earlier, Melissa, it has to happen, right?
Yes.
You talk about the touch screen at McDonald's. That's called Create Your Taste. Don't ask me why I know that, but I do. No, I don't use it. But I work for a company that installed them. Anyway, they're also doing this at Canada Border Services as well. Mm-hmm. So when you fly back into the country from another part of the world, you don't see a human being. You go to a kiosk, you scan your passport. Where'd you go? What have you done? Have a nice day. Bye. Yeah. So they have like 20 of these machines that cost about 80 to 100 grand a pop. Mm-hmm. But guess what? The average guy on the front line, guy or gal, would or they or them would ask you a barrage of questions and be able to judge by your emotional state whether you should go to secondary or not. Well, guess what? They're replacing those people who would be getting $87,000 to $90,000 a year salary with one machine that will run for the next 20 years for $80,000 to $100,000. And that machine will run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, will never go on strike, will never take a sick day, will never. They're replacing frontline people at the border. And then how do you go to secondary? Machine just randomly chooses your number. Do you know how stupid that is? But this is what's happening with automation. So if we don't institute a universal basic income and do it soon, we're going to find ourselves in a heap of trouble.
Yeah. And the specialization, robotics, all that stuff is has been a real thing since NAFTA, right? Since NAFTA was adopted. I just want to point out about the lack of the weirdly non-linear in relation to inflation rise and stagnation of ODSP and Ontario Works. Imagine if they allowed the supply and demand argument that they do with real estate to apply to ODSP, because the stagnation in those rates and the bubble in the real estate market results in homelessness.
Mm-hmm. It does.
You can't even argue against it. And obviously mortgages are held by banks, which is probably the main reason why real estate goes up at what is it, like 3 times the rate of inflation in Toronto and Vancouver, something like that. It's ridiculous. So stagnating one rate, inflating the other, resulting in homelessness. They might be just creating more recipients for the welfare and eventually ODSP role than trying to decline it. This might be a preemptive move because they know that eventually they're going to put people out on the street.
If every party had like a platform for the next 2 years, they put out what they would do, right? And I am going to try to hold hope that eventually some of those things will happen. But I said on the podcast that every one of the parties had leadership in my lifetime and could have made changes, and there has been nothing but further harm since Mike Harris was cut in 25 years. So, but if this American company and the big, huge investments that are they're leaving the country, first of all, that should not be happening. But the amount of money it's going to cost to pay this company, like Paul, you had said something about it was a 20,000 square foot
22,000 square foot here in Ottawa.
Yeah,
it's a call center.
Offices in Ottawa just as the call center for this group. The cost to bring in this company is so far less than if they got us above the poverty line, stopped clawing us back if we could get meaningful employment until it was a significant amount of money that it brought you a decent quality of life. Mm-hmm. And if they invested and said, for Ontario Works recipients that are able-bodied and disabled people who with the right supports could achieve meaningful employment, and stability for themselves if they allowed us to have common law partners or roommates or live with their parents and didn't, nickel and dime us and fight us on everything. It would cost so far less. And ultimately that means, it's basic income. But like until basic income becomes universal, it's costing them more money to do this than if they just started it with the current existing Ontario Works ODSP, even like CPP disability. They're less than ODSP. It's like $900 and something a month as a disabled person through CPP.
What was it? Somebody had said during the pandemic when they instituted CERB, and they did that very quickly. Like it was done in a hurry, and they said, let's just get the money to everybody. Some people will get it who don't deserve it. We'll get it from them later. Right now, we need to get money into people's hands so that they can survive because they can't work. Mm-hmm. Somebody pointed out, though, to me, they said, that's what a Liberal government is doing. I wonder what Andrew Scheer would have done. Nothing like that, because what the Conservative government tends to do is goes, well, if we give money to everybody, there's going to be a lot of people that don't deserve it. Maybe like 5% don't deserve it, and we don't want to give it to them. Whereas the Liberal government in place at the time, and I'm not saying all governments from the Liberal Party, but the one at the time just said, look, maybe 5% don't need it, but 95% do. So let's feed the 95% and we'll get it back from the 5% later. Now, those numbers are completely arbitrary, but it's a valid point. The Conservative government is afraid somebody might cheat us, and the Liberal government was going, we know somebody's going to cheat us. So why punish everybody else?
I personally think they know the statistics that it's the fraudulent rate or, is
so low.
less than 0.2% here in Canada or whatever. It's my opinion. It's just my opinion. I just think it's the mindset, right? Because it's a whole culture of, work, corporations for profit, and your value, it's a value about society in general that I sense in that sort of mindset of that party, that you're only valuable if you are earning money for other companies, or you get,
right.
That's where the value in your humanity is. And anybody that doesn't bring that value to the table is stigmatized, demonized, and they will just keep stomping on you. And I don't know if they think that's going to motivate us to suddenly be able to, climb the corporate ladder and become successes. But, being profoundly disabled, it's not going to go away or change. But, I just noticed a comment coming up, and it's a repeat comment that I see all the time, that, anybody can become disabled tomorrow. You can be at the height of your life and you can think, I'm secure. I've got a mortgage, but I've got a little bit of debt, but I've got good income and some savings or whatever. You wait until you get hit by a car, or you have a stroke, or, anything, even if you're working, but it's your partner, like you're going to go through it all.
Well,
and anybody can end up right where we are, like vote. And people need to start caring about, picture if it happens to you, because it's the one thing that none of us get to control. None of us choose. And it's probably the only thing out there in the world that literally could happen to any of us. It's an equalizer.
Well, somebody had sent something earlier in the chat about, what about long COVID? People who have long COVID are not going to be able to do their job anymore because they have to sleep 12 hours a day or longer.
They're not even going to be able to prove their disability because there's no PCR test.
There's no test.
That's scary. So, yeah, that's been a big concern for me, is how do you even prove that?
It's
I got to the conversation a little bit late, but I don't know if you mentioned this already, but I think it was like 2014, the social assistance management system, it was a digital rollout system for Ontario Works that they rolled out, and it resulted in thousands upon thousands of errors that cost millions and millions of dollars. It was not something that was a success during rollout. So they've already kind of tried this, kick at the can.
Failed.
And I also think it's worth pointing out that when it comes to certain things like child tax credits, for example, the Conservatives are socialists because they want the millionaire families that vote Conservative to get that money. Right. And it's just like, are they getting that money again? Like,
because they're the producers, right? And that's where the value is.
Which
and I think that's why
they're also commies, but they're communists as well, right? It's like, that everything for everybody thing. It's going to be an interesting conclusion to this election, because I think this is one of those times when Harper won the majority. I think it was 2011. Everything changed. His policy of like conservatism notwithstanding, it was an incrementalism approach to what he did. And then he got the majority government, and everything overnight just went totally like hardcore conservative. I know that he has a majority right now in Ontario, but everything has an asterisk during COVID. He did a lot of bad things. I'm not saying he didn't, but it wasn't as far as he could go. Now imagine that.
You're right.
Yes.
You're right. He was held up by COVID because he would have went further.
And he's going so far now. Like, I mean, I don't know how many people have ever driven on the 407 from like fucking Oakville to Orono, but it's like $70 because Mike Harris sold our fucking road to a Chinese company or whoever it is that
Spanish.
A Spanish company. And it's like, we don't learn. Like, there's no learning. And the reason why is because they're learned in the arts of corruption and in the arts of briefcases opening in parking garages, shit like that, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, I don't think we should be afraid of anyone when it comes to politics, but I think that first of all, I like to joke about it because it's true. The lack of leadership within the Liberals and the NDPs, the old stayed welcome of Andrea Horwath. She should not be there anymore. It's been 13, 14 years, whatever it's been. And then the lack of name recognition with Stephen Del Boca Vista or whatever his name is, because I don't think anyone really knows who that guy is until like a week ago. I didn't know who led the Liberals until 3 months after the Liberal convention happened. I was just like, oh yeah, the Liberals. Oh, right. Who leads them again? And no, he's just not memorable. He looks like, Dr. Evil and Rocco Rossi had a love child, So, not that matters. But.
I'm not going to argue with you on that one. I got to completely agree. I think the only place he's actually known in Ontario where there's any sort of population is Centretown here in Ottawa. And the reason I say that is he was the only provincial party leader that came to Ottawa during the convoy, the occupation. Andrea didn't show up. Well, Doug was on the phone 24/7, but that's the name of his skidoo. On the phone, that's his skidoo. He was on his skidoo 24/7.
Paulie was signing autographs, so
yes, and bringing him coffee and donuts. Stephen Del Duca did show up here in my neighborhood. He did walk the neighborhood. He did deliver groceries. He knocked on doors. He said, "How can I help? What can I do?" So I'm going to give him that respect because he did it. And somebody said, "Well, he's politicking," but that's his job. That's his job, and he did it. Now. Other than that, I would know nothing about the man. Literally, I would know nothing about him.
And you're living in Ottawa and you follow politics.
Yes.
There are, I don't know how you get the stat, but I would honestly hazard a guess that 30% of people in Ontario cannot name the Liberal leader.
It might even be higher than that, to be honest.
Yeah. And that is something that hasn't happened in my lifetime.
Well, check this out. We got some numbers coming up on the board.
Oh,
so NDP
that's it. NDP won. Woo!
It's done. It's over. That's it. Go home.
That's it. You called it.
Majority government. Woohoo! All the 2 seats.
I'm looking at another number here. Yeah, it's rising. The numbers are rising. We'll see them change throughout the evening.
Absolutely. Melissa, before our time is over soon, but before you go, what can people do if they want to help? And what message do you want to leave us with?
I think that's a big question that I don't know that I can answer right here, right now.
Let's try your best.
We need to stay committed. I think that we need to keep finding each other, people that are in this situation, and unite. And I think there's probably a lot of listeners in here right now because I made an announcement among this demographic that this would be talked about tonight. And they're probably pretty worried. So maybe I could just end by telling any of them that, none of us have the answers. I'm not a politician, but I do know that there's strength in numbers and we can keep showing up for each other and we can find the right allies, but we're going to have to use our voices. And the one good thing that we have going for us now is, the space I'm growing in personally, we're disabled and we're at home, but with our phones, we are finding each other so fast and we're finding allies fast.
Yes.
So I don't have a long-term strategy in my brain, but I do know that there's going to be work to be done, but there are some of us out here willing to help figure some things out, and we can all put our heads together, and we're going to have to empower each other and make sure that we see each other and make sure other people start learning our stories. I'm going to be doing some work, really hard work, to try to make sure that the general public starts to really understand what goes on in our lives. And that's basically, I don't know what else to say. We're pretty alarmed, but I don't think we need to fall down a rabbit hole of pure terror.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think we need to hold hope because, we can do it. People have been through hard times before. We know what it is to struggle, but if we have each other, that can make a big difference. And, even just you giving a platform for this topic and starting to care, it's going to open people's minds that it's not a bunch of people that are lazy, and we need to destigmatize this. And that's work. I think it's not the politicians we need to change, it's the voters. We need to reach the real people on a human level. And I hope that anybody that's struggling right now that's watching takes that away from this, that's what we need to do next, because then the population won't tolerate it.
Mm-hmm.
They tolerate it because they don't know our stories and they don't understand the struggle. So let's humanize it and make sure that they know our struggles, because then nobody would be able to stomach these kind of policies and this kind of 25-year wait where we're still being made promises that never come to action. So, yeah.
Well, Melissa, we flashed your tweet on about your Still Happening campaign so that people can see that. And the people
Oh,
here.
thank you.
Yes. And we'll have you on the show to talk about that as well at some point.
I would appreciate that. Yeah, because child welfare is I'm super passionate. I'll be just as busy in that space.
Well, we'll have a special show about that sometime in the future. We haven't mapped it out yet, but we will soon.
Yeah.
No problems, no rush.
You'll be part of that. You'll be part of that for sure.
And the viewers and the listeners, they're sending comments and they're really thanking you for your knowledge. So
I just followed you on Twitter just now as well, so you have a.
Thank you very much. I'll follow you back. I think I'm already following you, but if not, I'll follow you back.
Okay.
But you guys have a great night, and
thank you so much
I'm
for
going to
joining
go
us.
comfort, eat, and thank you.
Well, keep making noise, Melissa. And as our good friend Holly Warner says, that gave this a title to our Mother's Day show, get out there and fuck shit up.
I like it. I'm going to get that on a shirt.
Yeah, we should. Maybe one of our
that'd be a merch shirt.
Yes.
Yes.
True North Eager Beaver.
Hey, you just gave me a good idea. People been saying we need merch. I was like, oh, maybe I should do that. All right. Anyways, you guys have a great night. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
All right.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, Melissa.
James. Okay.
Yes.
Let's throw down, man.
Oh, awesome. Okay, let's do it. Let's fuck up.
Okay. I saw the NDP go. I saw the Liberals go. And yes, the Liberals had a good platform and they did that work, but they didn't do the work of selling it. They both went at each other more than they went at Doug Ford. Nobody even actually made the case against Doug Ford. I mean, I'm saying malpractice.
I think I'm saying media culpability. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I would probably just tweak it a little bit. We're saying sort of the same things, but coming at it from a different part of the blueprint. And I think that, our media has been failing us for at least 10 years, probably longer. But let's just say 10 years, where it's become aberrant and slapstick almost. I was just talking on Dean's show today about how, we can talk all day long, and I don't mind doing it, about conservative corruption and the sort of incestuous relationship that they have with religion, with religious organizations in this country, and all that is true. The Liberals have a different problem, and their problem is that the only currency that they know how to do politics with is working hand in hand, not with necessarily media companies, but with reporters within media companies. And what happens is these reporters, and I've seen it happen live in the flesh, where a Liberal political operative was like, "You want to see something?" And I'm like, "Okay." And he called a reporter for the Toronto Star, that shall remain nameless, and said, "Hey, I got a story for you. It's in your inbox. Let me know when you get it." The guy got it. He opened it, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't want you to really change any of it, and I want you to release it on Thursday, and I may call you between now and Thursday with changes." And he was like, "Okay." That is a problem. It's beyond a problem. And what's happening now is that it is being done in this way where it's like a pre-internet strategy of doing that weird incestuous relationship, that two-step between politics and media, but it doesn't hit anymore. And so they're wasting everyone's time, and we're not really talking about the things that we should be talking about. And if this was if let's just say there was another conservative party in Ontario that was competitive, and Doug Ford did all the things that he's been doing, what do you think that other conservative party would be saying and doing in the run up to the election? That person would be crucified. Doug Ford would be like every single day dodging daggers left, right, and center. And we just saw a guest on your show, Caryma, who single-handedly landed the biggest punch in the week run up to the election, better than any liberal punch, better than certainly any NDP punch.
Right.
And that is not just a testament to Caryma, and I love everything about that woman. I really do.
Oh,
She
yeah,
needs a
okay.
cape. She needs a cape, everybody. Someone's please send that
Yes.
woman a cape. And but it also speaks to the ineptness of the opposition.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
What that was the thing and that's where I'm coming to the malpractice part, right? That's at the other end of the spectrum. It's just if you're the NDP, how can you be the official opposition, have that platform for 4 years, and not? I mean, they just looked like they were not ready. They were not prepared. I mean,
well, they were the
leaders.
Snapple app in the 90s.
We
We're
have,
number-
we have Andrea Horwath fatigue.
yes.
She's not a compelling. Sorry, she's just not a compelling leader anymore. She may have been at one time, but she's not anymore. And Del Duca is unknown. He's just. I don't know how they managed to do that. Actually, quietly elect. You know what they were doing? I think what they were doing at the time is that. Do you remember Doug Ford was really struggling at the beginning?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was a massive struggle. I think the Liberals were just like, let's just let him hang himself.
Yeah.
And not do anything else.
And he was doing a good job of it.
Yeah,
Until-
but you need to walk and chew gum.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure there we go.
Boy.
Great. Wonderful.
You know what though? It's they're probably right, but go fuck yourself. The polls just closed.
Yeah, they, like
15
minutes ago. Really?
Yeah. I
Only
think the
need-
seat count is what 35, 13, 5 or something. I just saw
I got it over here on
47, 18, 7. Look at the NDP. That if that holds that separation, and that's like what 65, 72, 73. So it's more than half done.
Mhm.
I mean, the NDP could be the balance of power. I don't know. There's no prediction. Oh, well, hey Ryan, how you doing? I just said
Hey,
prediction.
Hi guys.
I don't know what that means.
I just wanted to say I came in and this is totally just because I'm an asshole.
Yay.
That blue check mark from Global News
Yeah.
deleted that tweet, but I caught it before he deleted it. So I
Okay.
thought I would throw it up just for some
Oh.
fun. So everybody can see how this works
Yeah.
in real time. That's not an official announcement, and yet their staff are making official announcements without any sort of backing or anything. So stick around, folks.
You could say suspect rather.
Yeah,
suspect.
a little bit. So maybe that tweet was probably drafted at 9:00 in the morning, and you know, maybe. And it's funny that it came out right at 9:15 p.m., which is normally when most of the returns do come back. But with the delays, they don't really know. So I just thought it'd be funny to show the audience that what do you know?
Yeah, look at that.
Anyway,
Do you find it interesting, guys? That Ryan, did you find it interesting, guys? That I'm looking at a CBC thing. The PCs have 47 seats with, 53 seats with 117,000 votes. The NDP combined have almost basically a little bit more than half of that, 28 seats combined, with 143,000 votes. So they have almost 30,000 more votes combined than the PC, but the PC have 24 more seats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have another announcement, and these ones are official. And these are, if we're going to go with media, Global and CTV are now officially predicting Ontario Progressive Conservatives will form a majority government for Ontario.
Yeah. Brave.
And that's official.
Brave of them. Regressive Conservatives. Regressive.
Just so's you knows.
Well, thanks for letting us know.
Thank you.
Did you just say aggressive Conservative Party? Because that's awesome.
Regressive.
Okay.
Regressive
yeah.
too.
They want to bring us back to the 1950s, right?
Another announcement? I thought there was another announcement on the horizon.
All right.
I don't know how long you guys want to keep me. I'm good till 9:30, but I can stay or go. It's up to you guys.
Oh, stay and hang out.
Please.
Enjoy your company. It's nice to have somebody else to chat with.
You look like, by the way, Paul, if James never did any hard drugs in his life. So I appreciate that mirror to the other side.
And I've never done drugs ever. Whiskey, beer, wine. That's my.
We're probably doppelgangers if I just stayed away from drugs.
I think I'm a little older than you, though.
Let's go with that.
I'll be 54 in July.
Oh, I'm 45. So.
Yeah, I'm a little older than you, like 9.
Yeah,
9
but I look like Voldemort next to your, Howie Mandel thing or whatever it is.
Yeah, but you still got, my beard is gray though, so you still got color, right?
I pluck the gray ones.
Well, mine's mostly
vanity.
Mine's mostly gray.
I don't even know. I have gray hair, but it's on my chest, so that's the only gray hair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot there too, and the first time that happened, I looked in the mirror and went, "What?" I had gray hair on my chest before anywhere else on my body. Go figure.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I'm Italian, so all the hair left my head and landed on my shoulders somehow.
Yeah, that's well, yeah, that's wrong for an Italian man. You should be, like Samson.
Oh yeah, I am not, as we discovered at the beginning of this podcast.
It's just down here if you let it grow long.
That's right. My treasure trail starts at my soul patch. Right?
Oh Jesus. Okay, now we've gone way off topic.
That's fine. It's basically the election in an anecdote anyways, right?
Well, yeah. Well, now they're saying 57 PC seats with 36 seats left to come. But I'm looking at some of these numbers. Don Valley East, 7 of 72 polls. Like
25 to 7 NDP to Liberal.
Yeah.
That is, and this is like that pollster I told you about said. This is the result. This is why the Liberals didn't leak their internal polling, and the PCs and the NDPs did. And it was hard to believe for a lot of people, but this is the Del Duca effect because no one knows who the fuck he is.
No one knows who he is.
Yeah, and I think, don't you guys find? I'm going to ask you guys a question because I can't really figure this out. If you look at the election results in Canada and the United States, there are two types of. What was funny? Sorry, I left.
You're getting some love. You're getting
Sexy
some love.
Voldemort. Sexy Voldemort.
Much cuter than Voldemort.
Oh well, thank you. Please don't say my name. But I can't figure out the kind of politician that is winning COVID elections and the kind that isn't. It is such a weird landscape right now.
There's no reason.
None.
Yeah, I remember, and I made this mistake. I gave Doug Ford a little bit of props at the beginning of COVID because I thought what he was doing was right at the time, which was deferring to health experts.
He did that
So the first wave.
The very first wave.
As soon as the first wave was over, everybody checked out. They started angling for political opportunity.
But simultaneously, look at all the decisions that he was making behind the scenes about centralizing health. And giving no sole source contracts to his buddies. So what he should have been doing obviously is trying to come up, like I would have established a think tank of professionals and sat with them day and night all the time to come up with some sort of creative solutions to help this problem. And he didn't do any of that. He treated that time as like not vacation time, but as an opportunity of sorts to enrich his friends and to take money out of our pockets.
Yes.
And I regret giving him props for deferring for just that, because what I should have been doing is, well, that's actually the easy fucking answer because Doug Ford isn't a doctor.
Right.
So
Yes.
he was actually doing what any dummy should be doing. And I
Yes.
stupidly, as another dummy, gave him props for that. When what I should have been doing is what's going on behind the curtain while he's doing all this. Remember, he
I'm
used the
guilty of the same
notwithstanding
thing.
clause. You know.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. I'm totally.
I'm guilty of
talking
doing
about-
the same thing, though. I gave him props in the first wave. I go,
Same
oh my
here.
God, he's listening to the science and he's supporting the prime minister. And like, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in a time of crisis, right? And he did that in the first 2 months. Then after that, it was all bets are off. It's all about the economy. Ontario's open for business, the economy. And I got thrown into that meat grinder of an economy when I was watching people who were working from home getting their first and second shots, and I couldn't get my first one. And I went on a rant on TikTok about it. And one of the local newscasters here on CBC TV, Adrian Harewood, had said, I was able to get my vaccine because I knew a pharmacist outside of town that had some. So he called me and I went and got it. And I said, well, I'm very happy for you, but what about me? He goes, what do you mean? I go, I am going to 7 to 8 client sites a day. I'm driving around the city, going to different client sites, working in different buildings, meeting with different people, and I can't even register to get a goddamn vaccine.
Wow.
Why? Because I'm a working class stiff, and Doug Ford doesn't give a shit about me, and he doesn't give a shit about people who live in Centertown because we traditionally vote Liberal or NDP. And yet who in this area, which riding got all the vaccines in the beginning? Dr. Mary Lee Fullerton, because they said they were a hotspot, which was the biggest fucking lie that's ever been lied. It was not a hotspot, not even close. Everybody that lives out there, the vast majority were working from home. How can that be a hotspot?
They did that all over the province too.
Oh, yeah.
What was that? It was in like vaccine access points in postal code areas where the infection rate was super low. So Parkdale got screwed in Toronto while Forest Hill did not.
Yeah, wait a second.
And then they had all these excess tests in Forest Hill that ended up getting destroyed because they expired or something. Like,
yeah. And let's not talk about the private schools who got all the rats, and public schools got nothing. Oh, and it was the Liberal candidate we interviewed for.
Tyler White?
No,
Matt
Matthew Pronovo. He's a teacher. And he's running for the Liberal Party in his riding, which is James Bay.
Mushkegowuk, James Bay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh no, we got the HEPA filters." And I said, "You did?" He goes, "Yeah, 2 months ago, just in April of this year."
Yeah.
He got.
Well, there was also that company that Ford gave the contract
to. The wristbands that are supposed to warn about detection or something.
No, the masks.
Oh, that
they
one.
They gave the reason why we didn't. Schools that were getting N95 masks from the teachers union and the government were on the same page, where it was like, because they had this contract with one company, any masks that went to schools that weren't from that company, they were told not to use them.
Right.
Even though people were wearing cloth masks at the time. They were told, they were literally forbidden by the teachers union too. So it wasn't just the Ford government; it was the teachers union too. So some fucking idiot at a negotiation table was trading the overall health risk of students and teachers and faculty for something else that the teachers probably wanted in a contract or something like that. But I don't blame the teachers; I blame the union, obviously, for that kind of thing. So that's what politics in COVID. Oh my God. I was also stupid for another reason, because I was like, a pandemic is starting. This is a great time to be bipartisan and end polarization. It just enhanced it. It gave it some bath salts, and now here we are, right? Like
bath salts is actually right.
I can't believe the tigers that eat my face party actually wanted to eat my face.
How did we Doug Ford was definitely having a bad go of it before COVID hit, right? I remember the Raptors parade, and he got booed. How did we go from getting booed at the Raptors parade, which is like Ontario was Disneyland for 2 weeks. So it was the happiest place on earth.
In the world.
And he was not invited. He was clearly not invited. How does he go from not being invited to the biggest party in the province to getting a second majority?
COVID. COVID is one of those things where I'll say it knowing it's the answer, but I probably won't be able to tell you why it's the answer. But that's that mystery of COVID. It has benefited Doug Ford because it's COVID, and we don't really know why. And there's a lot of people. Look at the Liberals at 7. Stephen Del Duca's name recognition. We'll put that aside for a second. Some people, it used to bother me when people would compare and contrast federal NDP, Liberal or Conservatives with provincial NDP, Conservatives and Liberals. And now I think people are doing it a lot more. I think that progressives are growing tired of Justin Trudeau, and it's actually reflecting in an NDP provincial win. Or provincial opposition position. And I think that it's one of those things that we have we have an issue with not being able to separate our animosity for a federal party with sort of punishing the provincial counterpart. So Rookie is saying that there's a graphic.
Oh, well, let's put it up.
Pull it up, brother.
Didn't we already do this?
I think we already did do this one.
Yes.
Yeah, we've seen this one.
Yep. Oh, there we go. Oh.
Yeah,
Bring it back. Bring it back. There we go.
Yep, there we are.
Oh, okay. Yes, Vaughn.
He didn't win his seat.
So yeah, but only so less than 16% of the polls reporting 6 out of 38. But
That's a pretty good gauge.
oh my God, that's a huge margin. That's 26%. Holy crap! There might be some neighborhoods in that might be leaning more liberal that haven't come in yet. But
people looked at their card and they're like, "Who?"
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
Wow. Because that's frightening.
Now, do you guys think that they'll dump him?
They have to.
Well, the NDP have lost how many elections? I mean, she did good in the last election. I don't want to trash her forever, but she had no business being the leader at that time either because of the previous 9 years of complete NDP uselessness. So I don't think they should. I think they will, but I don't think they should.
You don't think they should get rid of Del Duca?
I think they should just get rid of him immediately, because I don't think I just don't think that he started off the way that a leader is supposed to start off. Like if there isn't, the Liberals were not cognizant of. Maybe they were afraid of promoting a political personality during a pandemic. I don't know. I don't know what the reason was.
A large part of it.
But they didn't even try to promote the brand, at least.
No.
I mean, the Liberal brand is pretty darn solid.
Well, it wasn't at the time, though. Wynn's approval rating was negative 7,000%. Remember?
Absolutely.
And,
but I mean, you can run on the party or run on the team or run on with the Liberal brand. You can do that. I mean, the other parties maybe not, but this one you can. And I just don't.
They all overthink. They over-strategize, they overthink, they rely on public relations, they rely on polls, they rely on surveys. What they don't rely on is transparency and honesty and a savvy media strategy that doesn't use gimmicks. It's disappointing. We're a leaderless country. I've been saying this for years. But I can't think of any leader that's cut from the same cloth as a Jack Layton or even a Brian Mulroney, because for all of his corruption, at least that there were some things that you could pull away from his time as our prime minister that showed bipartisanship, that showed a progressive stance inside the progressive conservative,
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yep. So, and I mean, and at least he tried, he was transformative of a way and he tried stuff. I mean, Charlottetown failed and Meach failed, but at least he tried. He had a big ambition. He tried, it didn't work, but when's the last time we've had this big project as a nation that we've tried to work on together?
Have we ever?
Well, I mean, the last time at least somebody tried with Meach and part of Charlottetown to bring people together.
The St. Lawrence Seaway?
But I can't remember.
Bucket beer? I don't know.
That was a cute little promo. What was it? Loblaws? Yeah, that's that. There we go. Trump. Yeah. Thanks for coming out, James. Really do appreciate you. You're giving us your time this evening. And
no problem. I actually have a show on after your show.
Oh, do you? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, so we interviewed David Wallace, the Politicative, and
yes.
You guys are off at 10-ish or a little bit before. maybe.
Maybe 10:30. We have one more guest, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm supposed to start at 10, but whatever.
Okay.
But whatever you guys do is fine because I know it was literally something that I conjured up like an hour and a half ago. But we have David Wallace and we have Nathan Jacobson.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good show, buddy.
Oh, that's
So-
going to be good show.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. So no, finish, and I'll ask you a question.
No, I was just gonna say if anyone doesn't know who those two people are, go to my Twitter. I have a promo there. But there's so David Wallace is the self-professed political fixer who was the source of that story in Press Progress about the Russian ties to the Progressive Conservatives. Yep, back channeling. And Nathan Jacobson is like he's a former Harper. I don't even know what you would call him, an envoy or whatever, but he was like a pretty shadowy billionaire political operative. But he's also like had an interesting bio where Stephen Harper sent him to Syria to negotiate peace over there. He's like friends with Benjamin Netanyahu, but he's also a disgruntled ex conservative like stalwart in that him and me had a falling out because of the religious organization that Kenny was tied to. So it's going to be an interesting show. I hope you guys have time to tune in.
Absolutely.
But let me know now what time you want to go till, so I can tell my guests what time I'm going to have them on. Like you can go, whatever you were going to go to, just do whatever you want to do, and then I'll let them know. It's all good.
Well, let's take another 10 more, actually, because
I'll tell them that we could start at 10:15. Does that work?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're negotiating this on air, which is hilarious. But, yeah.
Okay. So it seems pretty clear that we're going to get him again. What do we always say that constant vigilance is the price we pay, right, for freedom and democracy. So what should we be keeping our eyes out for? What do you know about this guy that we should be watching out for the next 4 years?
I think we should be doing the next 4 years is finding leaders. I think that's what I think we should be demanding from our parties to find actual leaders, to find the NDP need to find themselves something like a Jack Layton. I think they'll make a mistake if they go for an Avi Lewis. I think we need to stop pretending that like fashion and celebrity and all this kind of stuff means anything, except for Stephen Del Count Duco or whatever the fuck his name is that lost his seat today.
We lost James.
We lost James.
There's
there's
okay,
Ryan.
We have Ryan.
Hey.
Okay.
No, hey.
What you got? Any news for us?
No, I don't. I have news that I have
The
no
news is
good
pretty
news,
much over, right?
and that is Doug Ford has a majority government now. But
Yeah. Like City News saying 74 PC seats. CBC is saying 74 PC seats. I'm like, this is just so goddamn.
yeah,
dismal.
they crossed. It was actually like in record time they crossed that line too.
Yes.
So, that's just indicative, I think. And I'll leave this to you guys. You guys are way more astute in this than I am, but that seems to me this is broken. Like this is really broken. Like what's happening in this province, and I know we reside in some echo chambers here. We do a lot of, it seems that way. We try, like, I'm no libtard. I'm no
I get
dipper.
called that all the time.
So do I. Believe me, I run the social media page for the Dean Waddell show.
So yeah,
You should see the names I get called, and then they call Dean, homophobic and all the other words. The words that, you understand the how that works, but it's really funny. We're as nonpartisan as it comes. We're actually, like, I shouldn't say that, we're more apolitical than nonpartisan. We're very we think everybody's an idiot, and we report the fact that everybody in politics is pretty much an idiot. But you're picking the idiot that doesn't want to hurt people, or you're picking the idiot that does want to hurt people. And Ontario literally in record time just picked the idiot that wants to hurt people. So,
well, and it's no secret to anybody, and it's no stretch of anyone's imagination to say that Doug Ford is a blithering idiot.
I'm not going to mince words, and I was going to try. Like I swear, I came in tonight. I came in with okay. Let's just report it. Let's report it the way it is. This is going to be sort of editorial.
That's fine.
I don't understand how we've allowed this to happen, and I know how it happened. I just don't understand how we've, as Canadians, how we've allowed this to go on for as long as it has, and now we're reaping the benefits of allowing that to happen. And I know you guys agree. You're of the same mindset when it comes to this. We fucked this up. Like as a province, we fucked this up. As a country, we're fucking this up, and nobody's really kind of paying attention to what we're doing. And I think it's going to take a real, like, I hope it doesn't take us crashing the car into the side of the hill to figure it out. But I think that's where we're heading.
It is.
I think that's what's going to happen.
I think people, I know that people have had a crappy last few years, right? I mean, COVID started and I thought I was built for this, right? I mean, I'm a bit of an introvert. So a lot of people wouldn't believe it.
I loved staying home.
Me too, right? I've been working from home like way before it was cool.
Best party get out of excuse ever. It's been fucking awesome.
It's just, it's brilliant. Yeah. And I had 2 times during COVID where, at one point was like, you know what, this is a little too much. The first time was during the first wave around the time of April, when we were allowed to go to parks, but we had to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Right? We weren't allowed to stop. You weren't to stop on a bench, watch ducks, whatnot. And nothing was open yet. And I remember one day I was just like, we're just walking. If you want to go for a walk, and that's literally, you can stop in and pick up a hot chocolate or stop for a piece of cake and chat for a little bit. You're literally just walking.
Yeah.
I just like for about 2 minutes. It's just like, I just lost my mind.
I had a lot of points during that time. I'd sit on my buddy's porch for a pint.
Yeah, Paul, we know how much you yelled during certain points of the pandemic. We know.
And then
it's actually viral.
Right. Yes. And then in February this year, I started to get a little not to the point where I would start go protesting and I don't want to wear masks and whatnot. And how many shots do you want? It's like, so long as they have shots, I'm going to take them. I got 2 arms juice me, right? I mean, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But February came along and said, okay, you know what? I'm
pretty much tired of it.
I'm tired of it. Right? I
agree.
If you're not tired of it, you're not human.
Pandemic fatigue. It was a real thing. Even for pro, everybody that was trying to do the right thing, we got tired. You're right.
Oh yeah.
So nobody wants to talk about it in the election. Nobody wants to have an accountability during the election, and everybody it just seems like we just had the federal one, right? And that was the big one. It just seems like everybody said, you know what, just do what you want.
Just fuck off. Everybody fuck off. Leave me alone. I just need to I need to regroup and reset. You're right.
We've got 1 summer right now, where things seem somewhat okay like this, and we're just going to frickin' have it. So, what?
And listen, I'm the pinnacle of health, okay? I'm the pinnacle of health. And I was totally pro-vaccine. And I said, listen, guys, mask up, vax up. Fuck you if you don't want to get a vax. You lose your job. I don't care. H-Train lost his job. That kind of shit. I was totally down with that. And now I heard today that the Toronto police are pulling their vax requirement status for the police department. As of this morning, they made a announcement, but the rest of the city of Toronto has not. And I thought to myself, how would you have reacted to that news 6 months ago? And I said, no, I would have been pissed that Toronto police are backing down. This is fucking stupid. This morning, I swear to God, I was driving in. I was tired, physically tired, because it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving. I'm like, fuck. You know what, Steve? Just pull the plug. Just fucking let them go back to work. Just do what. I don't care anymore. And it wasn't me. I know that's not me. That's literally the exhaustion and the fatigue that's talking.
And that's
not my critical brain. That's not my critical thought brain.
It's human to have that moment.
It's just,
and they're taking and the Ontario PC Party took advantage of that, and you know what? It fucking worked. It fucking worked.
Like
so, here we are.
They destroyed. So we've got one more of our guests. I guess our final guest this evening, Sam G.
Sam? Oh, I know
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.
Hey,
I figured we might need some laughs.
I love Sam. Sam's like one of my favorite Twitter people ever.
Well, she's one of the funniest people on Twitter ever, number one. And number two, and every single sort of Twitter space I've ever been in with Sam and the ones that she's hosted, she's been such a gracious host. And some of the people that were on there were saying stuff, and I'm just sitting there going, what did you do? And Sam was able to just calmly negotiate with them and say, okay, thank you. You've made your point. I don't agree with you, but next call, And Sam, I gotta, my hat's off to you for that, because I would not have been able to contain my rage. But I think maybe it's because I'd had convoy fatigue at that point. Maybe.
I think the benefit of a Spaces is you can't see my facial reactions.
Can I tell a quick aside? Sam and I once did a space with a very controversial person together, and if it wasn't for her, I probably would have said some horrible words, and I probably would have went off a little harder than I did. And I swear to God, it was because Sam wasn't there. I'm like, you know what, Sam's good people. I'm gonna try and keep this together to make our side look a little better here. She's a great influence on Twitter. I'll let you guys talk with Sam though. Sam, I love you. We'll see you soon on Twitter. I'm gonna jump out. I have to get ready for this next one with James, but it's great to see you guys.
That's going to be a banger of a show. Thanks for coming.
And before I leave, I want to show you that. Did you guys see this before we go? Look at this. So Doug Ford tweeted this out on his way to the poll with an American star, and yeah, he kind of forgot his comms team are right on fire tonight. So
that's like when he wished his brother a happy birthday, and they used like 10 feet from last year. Forgot to update
the age wrong. Well, it's like when he did the same thing on PSW Day. He just recycled last year's PSW Day for this year. It was the same video and everything. He was like 40 pounds lighter last year without all the cheesecake. So I'm going to go. But I love you guys, Sam. Take care, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, I just wasn't understanding why the key word of this election wasn't incompetence. Like, come on, man, he can't get stickers to stick. He can't get a license plate. I can't remember his brother's birth year. Like, it was just right there. The man's incompetent. That's all they needed to say. Hi, Sam. Help.
I was hoping to join with a better announcement or better something. I think I can't say that I'm surprised. Obviously, I'm disappointed. I was going into tonight not, holding out a lot of hope that it would be a different result, but I still had a bit. So yeah, we'll try to lighten the mood a little bit as much as possible. But I think it's a tough night for a lot of people in Ontario. I think that there are people who I've just been sort of seeing some of the commentary coming through the feed on Twitter, and people are worried. People are feeling scared. They're feeling frustrated with our fellow citizens who obviously contributed to this result.
Yes. Overall, you watched this election too. How much screaming at the TV were you doing? It's like,
You want to know some of the most of the screaming that I was doing, especially, even as recently as just a few weeks ago, is where the heck is Del Duca? Where is, the people that we need out there front and center talking about, first and foremost, why do we need, why do we need Doug Ford out? Let's focus on that. Let's really focus on the message here. What does it mean for Ontario to have 4 more years of the Ford government? And why is that detrimental? And we need to make that message loud and clear. And you weren't hearing enough of it. You just weren't seeing the presence there. And that's not going to help get people to the polls, get people sort of thinking about what the impact of their decision is. So there was a lot of the screaming at the absence of the presence on TV or on social media or media itself.
Well, I think we're entering into the Hunger Games space in Ontario now. Yeah. Welcome to Pan Am. Pan Am, is that what it was? What's this? 2 conservative offshoots set up by PCs who were booted by Ford from caucus. New Blue and the Ontario Party are collectively winning 4.7%. The Greens have retained Guelph and are close in Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Do we have a board for Parry Sound, Muskoka? Yeah, there we go. Look at this.
That is tight.
That is very tight. It's 49 of 96 polls reporting, so there's still a lot of room.
500 votes right now.
Oh, that would be nice. I mean, Mike Schreiner deserves this. And this guy, Matt Richter, it's the 5th time that he's running, and the incumbent isn't running again. So they're all new candidates. You got to respect a guy who stays in the game.
Oh, yeah. What's Tyler's riding?
Nepean.
Ottawa West Nepean, preliminary result.
Yeah, just Nepean.
Just Nepean?
Yes.
So this is saying preliminary, 21 of 51 polls in.
And that's close too.
That's pretty close. 39% for Lisa MacLeod, which is astonishing because what? Yes. And 33.8% for Tyler. I just can't get over that figure for Lisa MacLeod. I mean, she's an absolutely deplorable human being. I don't get it.
You know what? I think one of the things that we're seeing, I mean, I was trying to think about this. How did this happen? How did we get here, right? Like as you're coming into this conversation, as I'm coming into the conversation, and I've been listening to you guys for a lot of your stream, and it's like, how do we end up here? I think I borrowed this from someone else, but the one that I've been repeating quite a bit over the last couple months is that, some people would vote for a recycling bin because it's blue. Like it's a legacy. It's a legacy for them. Their families have always voted blue. They're going to vote blue irrespective of who the candidate is, right? It's who they vote for. And they're not really thinking about the platform. They're not thinking about the implications of the platform. It's really just, this is who I vote for, and this is the party that I vote for, and that's what I'm going to do because I've always done it.
My grandpappy voted for them. My grandma voted for them. So I'm going to vote for them too. So critical thinking is dead. Clearly.
Seems so.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's also, one of the other things that I was even watching, just sort of a few people commenting, and people focus on sort of the small issue that they don't like from another party, or they'll focus on sort of one key thing that they like about a platform, and then that's what they go for. And they're not seeing the forest for the trees. They're not seeing the bigger, more broad-reaching effects that party could have in the province, whether they're good or bad, depending on who we're talking about. They're saying, I don't like this, or I do like that. And I thought a big one, and as soon as I heard it, was the discussion around the vaccines being mandatory in the schools. And sort of regardless of what you feel about vaccine policy and whether you're vaccinated or not, I think for a lot of us, the minute we heard that, it was, he just lost, or, Del Duca, in this sense, the Liberal Party just lost a lot of potential votes right there, just on that one issue. There's a lot of people who it's so contentious that regardless of everything else, they were out.
Yep.
I agree.
That's probably a good observation. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when I saw he released that, there was a part of me went, well, yes, that's logical, but I think he made a huge mistake saying that. I mean, it's like any child that gets registered for school has to have the yellow card of vaccines, right?
Right.
And there's diphtheria, polio, mumps, measles, blah, 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 blah. COVID will just be added to that. But when he said it was mandatory, he shot himself in the foot.
Yeah.
It's so contentious for so many people.
And I think we're in an interesting place with the vaccines right now. I mean, in terms of what we're seeing as far as like how you define efficacy, maybe it isn't the right time to draw that line in the sand, as we observe where we're at with the pandemic and where we're at with, the waves and how people are faring through the variants that are coming down the pipes. So, I mean, it's not to say I haven't, I wouldn't go on record as saying that I don't think it's a good idea to make them required as a part of the full immunization protocol for a school. But perhaps it is a little too soon to be as sort of forthcoming with that being the absolute answer, as we're still monitoring the younger kids in terms of whether or not they're even going to be able to get it, and then allowing parents to make those decisions for kids as well. And, I'm a big believer that the platform should include what you believe in, and, don't throw something out simply because you are worried it's contentious. So I wouldn't suggest that was necessarily the way that I would have liked to see them angle this. But at the same time, perhaps that's something that, they could have explored and indicated that they were exploring and if the, medical community felt at that time, as we head into the school year for September, that this was still sort of something that they could get behind and back, that would be something that they would consider, but that it wasn't that firm line, as I said.
So,
totally agree.
we have a board up for Nepean. This might be Nepean West, I believe.
Yes, I believe. Yeah.
So we have Chandra Pasma of the NDP, who's leading at the moment, and Jeremy Roberts of the
That's a
Progressive
tight
Conservatives.
race, though.
Also a tight race. 52 of 70 polls reporting, so we're getting close there. But hopefully we'll have from Nepean shortly, because we had one of the candidates, Tyler Watt, who's running for the Liberals, as one of our guests for our interview, and let's see how he's doing.
Tyler is the nurse.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Such a charming young man. Just a really good human. I like, we talked with him for, I think it was a little over 2 hours. We chatted with him, and it's on the show. You'd have to go search it there on the pod page. But just how you talk with somebody and you realize this is a good person that wants to make the world better for everybody else. That's exactly who he is. Yeah. And I think nursing made him more compassionate and empathetic, because nurses have been getting beaten down by the current government in power, and the one that's just been reelected for some strange and bizarre reason. I don't know. Is it apathy? Is it ambivalence? Is it COVID fatigue? I'm just exasperated right now, is all I can say.
And I think we need to see more of that in politics. I think in general, whether it's at the provincial or the federal level, is these fresh faces, these people who are coming from backgrounds that they're not career politicians. These aren't people who have, only ever known this, or they've, found their way in through nepotism or other things that don't really give them that life experience that allows them to lead and influence in ways that would actually pertain to the people that they're representing. If you have nothing in common with your constituents, how do you represent them accurately?
Exactly. Right.
With the sincerity that we need to truly affect change, right?
Which is the thing that I so admired about Tyler. I'm like, you are somebody who knows what it's like to earn a living the hard way.
That's right.
You knock on a door, and your next door neighbor might be a construction worker who's probably worked just as hard and just as many hours, different environments, but both of them are dangerous environments. So, there's an aspect where you can relate to this person more. And look who they're electing.
And I mean, if you've come from these areas, you understand the ins and outs. You're not seeing what one party might say or what one platform might push. You're living and breathing it. You're on the ground, and there's no better way to be able to speak for the experience than to go through it, especially as a nurse in the last couple of years. Not only is he able to comment, in terms of what the nurses and other healthcare workers have faced over the last couple of years up against, wage freezes and the utter disrespect that comes from, a government saying that we don't think you deserve more money, which is absolutely ludicrous to me. Certainly these individuals aren't in it for the money, but they absolutely deserve to be compensated for the time that they've put into this, for the risks that they've taken over the last couple of years. So we've got 28. Okay, still ways to go.
It's ways to go yet. Certainly.
Yeah, 28 of 51 polls.
Fingers crossed for Tyler, because like I said, he's a good person and he wants to make the world a better place.
Yeah. And then from Moscrop, James Bay, it seems that it's a big fight between Guy Bourgoin of the NDP and Éric Côté of the Progressive Conservatives. Only 2.9% difference between them, with 14 of 33 polls reporting. Matthew Pronovo, who was kind enough to sit for an interview with us, is in third place so far at 10.3%, but it's still relatively early, less than 2,000 votes cast total in the riding.
It's a riding of 40,000 or 30,000, I think.
Something like 40,000, I believe, And hopefully Matthew will be able to join us a little bit at some point this evening for a bit.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I think, some of the interesting things, and I don't like to feed the conspiracy machine, but I don't know necessarily that it's a conspiracy or if these are isolated incidents, but, I'm seeing things coming through on Twitter today where people are experiencing, problems at the polls.
Yes, I saw that.
not only, not being ID'd, which is problematic to me because the voter card is something that could be easily acquired,
Yes.
but also people going to vote and their name was already scratched off and they were having to escalate
Mm.
the issue because it was being registered that they'd already put in the vote. And I don't want to suggest that there's something nefarious happening there, but when we're, in a situation I would say this no matter who had come out ahead this evening, but I think that that's something that we've got to pay attention to is if there is multiple reports of this, like what are we doing here? Because we know from our neighbors down south that when there starts to be suggestion about, potential
Snowballs.
tampering, it can become a hugely problematic issue for
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was something, as you say that, it's like they might need to look into this because I did read a number of reports of that today, and I kind of went, "What? But we're known as the nation that does elections really, really well. This is the first time in my life I've ever heard of something like that happening in an
Yeah.
election." So, is it a cause for concern? Is it hyperbolic? Are these people? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
why I say it should be looked into at the very least, right? Because we can't go down the same pathway they did in the U.S. We
Yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've got to make sure that we have fair elections and that the results are a reflection of the democratic process
Mhm.
and that we are certain of that. And then if those are the results, those are results, and we know that that's how this works. And we live with it because that's how it works. But we need to make sure that as they are coming in, we are confident that they came in accurately and reflective of the voices of the people. And I think on that note, it's sort of a little, I was hearing numbers in terms of the voter turnout, and maybe you guys were talking about it a little while ago as we were heading just into the 8 o'clock hour, and seeing such a low percentage of the population, the voting population, having come out at that point. And yes, of course, there's the possibility that folks were waiting until the workday ended and things like that, but. I think it's something that as we're digesting this and the implications of this for the next 4 years, we really got to think about, as a province, how do we implore more people to get out to the polls? Something that I said earlier today on Twitter was, do not assume that the election has been decided just because you're hearing polling numbers or just because you're hearing messaging that would suggest that X party is, poised to win, because that's exactly how they do win. Is if you just give up and you say, well, there's no sense for me to vote in my riding because my candidate can't win and therefore I can't influence sort of the larger outcome. That is exactly how that continues to happen. I think that we've seen that with parties, and I mean the NDP as the official opposition is an interesting outcome that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
I figured this was going to go PC with the Liberals as the opposition. But I think that is indicative that, potentially there might be some sentiment around voting Liberal this time around, but also people who maybe historically didn't vote NDP because they didn't think that they had that potential. They were like, I like the platform. I like what my specific MPP is, doing in the community, but I'm not going to vote NDP because it won't make a difference. And it's good to see that people didn't necessarily go that route this time, because I think that at the MPP level and at the MP level, I see a lot of NDPs doing really, really great things in the community.
Oh yeah. Well, in my I'm in Centertown, Ottawa. Ottawa Center is the riding, and the incumbent 67 120 polls reporting he's got a 54.5% lead over. That's Joel Harden, NDP candidate. He's got a 54.5% lead. Next is Katie Gibbs with 22.4 for the Liberal Party, and then Scott Healy at 15.8 for the Conservatives.
Mm-hmm. I think we have some boards with for the leaders as well, other than Del Duca. So we have Doug Ford and Etobicoke. So yeah, elected 55.1% of the votes. The Liberal candidate Julie Lutete was in second place at 23.3 with 24 of 38 polls reporting. Hamilton Center for Andrea Horvath, 39 of 53 polls reporting. She too has got to 56.5 and has been declared elected. Closest candidate there was Sarah Bocati of the Progressive Conservatives with 17.3, so a fairly healthy win for Andrea Horvath.
Which was expected, I think, in her
Yes.
riding.
And hopefully we'll have Mike Schreiner at some point soon from the Greens.
Time will tell.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Been a heck of a night.
Yeah.
The results are different than what I expected. As you said, Sam, I thought the Liberals would have been the minority. I didn't. The opposition, sorry, and I thought the Conservatives were going to get a minority government. I knew they were going to win, which is I'm still astonished by that. I can't believe I'm saying those words, but I knew they were going to win. But I didn't know they were going to win with a large majority. Now, again, the turnout, I'd love to know what the overall turnout was voter-wise. And I think it's not just ambivalence, it's COVID fatigue, it's people are thinking there's just nobody good to vote for. And then when they see the polls 2-3 weeks ago saying, oh, we're predicting a Conservative majority, as you said, people just, well, my vote doesn't count. But that's what they're counting on when they put out a poll like that. They're coercing you into not voting.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I'd like to see, I'm interested to see, and I know those numbers will come out just in terms of the breakdown, in terms of the demographics as well. Young people, I'd like to see what percentage of, under 30 turned out, because I think that they have such a powerful voice in terms of the issues that they would be concerned about, sort of unique to that age group. And I'm just, curious to see where they were represented in all of this, because I don't know that necessarily that's the age group that would have gone conservative. Just as you don't necessarily see them aligning with a lot of those values traditionally. So I guess the question there is also kind of, and something that I tweeted just before joining was, we're talking about what has happened and kind of what's next. And I think it's sort of, God, what are we bracing for over the next 4 years in this province? But also, how do we now say we've got some time, but not a lot of time, to figure out what do we do on a go forward basis to make sure that we are better positioned, looking forward, whether that's influencing groups that just didn't come out, whatever that might look like in terms of age groups, or representing different areas of the communities throughout Ontario. How do we get more people out to the polls? How do we look at who our leaders are within these respective parties and make sure that they are the type of leader that people want to vote for as well? Because a lot of the times when people are casting that vote in their riding, they're thinking about, I'm sort of voting for X person, but I'm actually voting for Andrew Horvath. I'm actually voting for
yes,
right. And so when they're doing that, we've got to make sure that they would want to vote for that person, even though it's not the U.S. model where you technically are.
Yeah. We just had the board up for the Green Party leader, Mike Schreiner, and we just saw some video that he's addressing his crowd right now at headquarters. He won his riding at 54.5%. So, just over 50% seems to be the trend for the leaders, except for Stephen Del Duca, of course. And second place on that riding was 20.5% for the Progressive Conservative candidate in that riding. I've got the Ontario Elections website up here, and it says that at 10:02 p.m. Eastern Time, the voter turnout is 30.29%.
Oh, wow.
That is insanely low.
That's disturbingly low, considering that there's a war in Ukraine right now where they're fighting to keep their democracy.
Yeah. And that's for me, it's sort of, this is done. And I think it's important, as much as, it's good to think forward. It's important to sit with it, and it's important to, feel whatever we feel about it. It's not to rush through that part, because it is, this is very impactful, and it's going to be significantly impactful for certain people more than others, of course. But I think it's also being able to say, let's take this, whatever this emotion is, whether it's anger, whether it's fear, whether it's sheer unbridled rage, and turn it into something, and make sure that the people who, and I'm just looking in the chat even here from our discussion, and people are incredibly upset, and rightfully so, and how do we use this to our advantage? Like I said, that we've got to get through 4 years. We absolutely do, and there's no overlooking that that's going to be hugely impactful, and 4 years is a significant amount of time. But how can we come together all of us who are feeling this intense emotion about these results, and say we are going to affect change. We're going to be part of seeing more people out at the polls the next time. Because I certainly know that there's opportunities for me to participate in that, to get, out there in the community more and participate and be more active with that, leading up to an election, to ensure that, obviously you get more people out to the polls. It doesn't mean it goes your way, but we need to see more Ontarians. We need to see more Canadians casting that vote, having their voice heard, even if we don't agree with what their voice is saying.
Well, as I say frequently on the show, Gen Z's going to have to save us, because it sure as hell isn't the boomers, and I don't know where my Gen X is. I think my Gen X is just kind of so fed up with everything. And, I don't expect everybody to be as engaged as I am. I don't require that of anybody. I just want people to vote. Just vote. How much time out of your day does it take to do it in Canada? Have you ever heard of anybody waiting 8 hours in line like they do in the US? It just doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
So as a representative of Gen X, I vote in every election, and I'm hoping that all my Gen X brethren do so too. I know the millennials are very much engaged, and Gen Z and the younger Gen Z, the 16-year-olds right now are incredibly engaged. And I think the next election, we're going to see a sea change in the province of Ontario. I could be wrong. Look at it this way. Doug Ford's given us 4 more years of show. He's given us 4 more years for material, because we're going to be ranting and raving and screaming and yelling for the next 4 years at the terrible things he's going to try and get away with, like how he's currently privatizing healthcare. And that will affect everybody in the province. And when people start realizing, what do you mean I got to pay $300 for x-rays? Oh, no, that's been delisted by Doug. It started with that beady-eyed, I'm trying to measure my words here, Dalton McGuinty. When I used to, I'm in my mid-50s, so I need to get my eyes checked every 2 years. Well, that used to be covered by OHIP. Then it wasn't. Then it was $78 every 2 years. Now it's $150. Okay, I can afford that, but a lot of people can't. It's another $150 that you have to take out of your pocket for something that should be covered by OHIP.
Well,
So,
I mean, life is so incredibly expensive right now, right? And every incremental increase in the costs for a family or an individual is going to hurt that much more, because gas is more expensive. You can't get out of. I went out tonight, and you mentioned, not having any lines. I vote at a school in my neighborhood, and I quite literally walked in right up, handed them my card, handed them my ID, walked over, voted, and was out of the school. I wouldn't even say that I'm exaggerating, that I was not there for more than 60 to 90 seconds. It was just in and out, right? I know that a friend of mine voted earlier today. She said that there was maybe 10 people ahead of her in line. We certainly don't face those hours-long lineups, and it's an amazing testament to the passion of the people in the United States who are willing to wait in hours-long lineups to cast that vote, especially they're doing it sometimes in terrible weather. So if we have the ability to walk into a building and do it, we certainly should. I think we need to get to the bottom of why aren't people doing that. If it's relatively easy, what is stopping them? I think those questions need to be asked. And we certainly need to do that. But to the point about, the costs and things like that, I did a loop of the neighborhood, stopped at the grocery store for just like a couple of things. It wasn't even a planned trip. You can't walk out of the grocery store without spending $50. Like, it's just, and this was just a couple of things. It wasn't my weekly shop, right? Things are expensive. And if we're talking about tests that people need to be getting or want to be getting because it's something like cancer screening, where we're putting a price tag on that and making it that either impossible to do because it's not in their budget, or it's going to be, there's that much less incentive to go out and do it. It actually hurts us all more in the long run, right? Because if you screen for illness and catch it early, the cost to the healthcare system to treat it is astronomically lower than it's going to be when typically people are catching cancer in stage 3 because you need so many symptoms for the doctors to start running the appropriate tests, because they don't have the ability to run a test for absolutely everything every single time you have 1 symptom, 2 symptoms. You're catching it so late that A, it's going to be more expensive, and then B, God, it's going to be harder to beat this thing. We're putting people in the position to potentially lose their lives because we're catching life-threatening illnesses too late. But when push comes to shove, if it's a $90 or $120 test and they don't know for sure that they need it, something's got to give, right?
Exactly. Look, I'll give you for instance, okay? Full transparency. I got paid yesterday, paid the rent, paid a couple of bills, paid a couple more bills. I looked at my account this morning and I went, I got $200 and I got to make that stretch for 2 more weeks.
Yep.
So guess what? Out comes the credit card in a week from now, because $200 is not going to last me 2 weeks. I'll buy $100 worth of groceries. That's 2 small bags, and that's not going to feed me for 2 weeks.
Yep.
This is what we're living in today. And I don't earn garbage money. I'm not middle class. Middle class cutoff in Centertown, Ottawa for a single person is $87,000. I don't earn that much. I don't. Full transparency. I don't. I'm below that. But I'm not poverty wages, but it's just everything has gone way up. So it's like, what's next,
The city of Toronto, to be middle class, is $136,000.
That's absurd. Yeah, but that's and I get it. I have friends and family in Toronto. It's like, yeah, no, that makes total sense. At the same time, it's completely ludicrous.
It's insane. I mean, it's insane I know, obviously, I remember growing up and thinking people that made 6 figures, they were rich. Like that was, in your mind. Or this idea that someone that lived in a house that cost $800,000, like if you had a classmate, yeah, those people were like, they were the super rich kid at school, right? And obviously, over the years, things increase. And as hard, as painful as it is for me, I was in elementary school a few years ago, so costs go up over the years. But it's
because you're only 22,
precisely, something around that age. But it's crazy to me to think that now the average cost of a condominium in this city, 2 bedrooms, which it's not a lot of square footage, it's just got 2 spaces that you would call a bedroom, is $1 million. And so what about families, right? What about people who are trying to, raise children, and where do you put them when you're saying that you've got a $1 million cost on ownership for a condo apartment, let alone a home where you have a bit more space? What are single parents doing? What are people who are on, disability incomes and things like that doing? And it's terrifying for people to have to look down sort of that rabbit hole and go, does this get better? And when we're looking at 4 more years with Doug Ford, where's the proposals for any of those improvements, right? I didn't hear a single thing that would suggest that we're going to get better in that regard. Ryan is back.
Sorry, I was typing. I'm going to jump in when she's done. Thanks, Rookie. I was going to jump in when you were done. No, I was thinking about what you were saying earlier. You had made a point about, like, somebody had brought up like the war in Ukraine and why the voter turnout is so fucking dismal right now. And I've been pushing this theory for a bit, and I think today actually solidified it, and that's the fact that there's a big difference between an old democracy and a new democracy, and we are considered an old democracy, whereas Ukraine is considered a very new and young democracy, where those people really put stock into what we take advantage of and we take for granted. And until we have somebody lobbing fucking bombs at our apartment buildings, and it could be proverbial, it could be lobbing bombs at our paychecks, at our ODSP, at our OW, which is about to happen for the next the next round. Just so you guys know, you're literally in for a war. It's a war on poverty, which they will win. Yes. And we've become so apathetic and so lazy in that comfort that we sit here in. we're about to see exactly what we've taken advantage of ignoring, and I think that's where we are now. You see a lot of people that are on social media, especially now. It's a very good window into the world of people who are literally on the edge of making medically assisted dying decisions on the fact that they can't fucking live here anymore, just because. Yeah, I can't afford to live here. My house can't get retrofitted. I can't do these things. So you know what? I might as well fucking die. Like, that's where we are right now in this province. Yep. I might as well just fucking die than live in the 6th freest country in the fucking world, because of what we just saw and witnessed tonight in record time, by the way, where the PC government gained a majority. This is a very sad day. Not for Ontario, it's for democracy itself and Canadian democracy itself. It's a very sad day. It's a sad day for healthcare workers. It's a sad day for teachers. It's a sad day for long-term care residents. It's a sad day for any single person in this province, as Sam said, that doesn't make $136,000 a year to support them.
Just someone who's middle class in this city, like that's
just getting by.
Yeah. You
so
might
if you're not
literally paycheck to paycheck at $136,000 a year.
Exactly. So this is a wake up call, I hope, for people to and I'm sorry to be the one to say it. We need this. We need this sort of rock bottom. It's just like having an addict in your family that's addicted to fucking comfort politics. You need the addict to hit the rock bottom, and you're about to fucking hit it, everybody in this province. You're about to hit the rock bottom. You're here now. The next 4 years, buckle the fuck up. I hope anybody that has the opportunity to donate to food banks, you do it now and continue to do it for the next 4 years. I hope anybody that will donate to GoFundMe's for people that don't want to die, do it now. And I'm not being alarmist. I'm being a fucking realist right now. I'm sorry. Yeah. We are literally at that precipice now. So, yeah. I'm a little upset. I'm a little upset in us. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed in Ontario.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that was my thing. Like, I was walking around my neighborhood, and every time I saw one of the blue
We're
signs,
still in all of James's time. Sorry, guys.
I see this blue sign on the lawn, and I'm going, like, damn it, right? Because I'm thinking, I really need people to not just vote for sort of their interests. Like, and I'm making some assumptions here based on the sizes of some of the houses in this neighborhood, and connecting the dots there. And I certainly don't know the people that live in every single one of their houses, but looking at it and going, like, I get that maybe there is something in this platform that appeals to you, but I need you to think about how your decision is affecting everybody else that isn't you. If just because you are fortunate enough to not have to rely on disability income, or have to, you don't work in a hospital, you're not a teacher, you don't have children in school, or you could pay $120 for tests, and you would gladly do that because it bumps you to the front of the line and you've got all of those incentives for yourself. We need to get back to, as Canadians, as Ontarians, making decisions where we're doing it for the collective again, because we saw a lot of that kind of dissipate during the pandemic, and it was disheartening. We need to get back to that.
It was a great reset. Like, the pandemic became a great reset for every party that had some sort of a finger on a button to either use it to the advantage of the people of Canada and Ontario, or the people, or take advantage of the people of Canada and Ontario. And we saw it with clear glasses. So, hi, Mike, or Matthew. Matthew is here.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Matthew. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thanks.
Well, as well as we can be, considering
considering
the thing.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end of the show, but we have the good fortune of having Matthew Ponovo, who ran in Mushkegowuk, James Bay. So he's a Liberal candidate. We have someone that actually rolled up his sleeves and got involved in the election, ran as a candidate. Matthew, not the result you had hoped for?
No, definitely not. Some disturbing news, especially since I do work in education, and many of my volunteers and friends work in education. So it's not looking like a good 4 years coming up. So we're definitely in for some difficult times coming up. So very disappointing results. But I mean, my team has been excellent. We worked hard. I think I personally knocked on 1,000 doors this week myself. We really gave it our all, and I'm very thankful for all my support, especially from my partner who's been behind me the whole time. But some unfortunate, very disturbing results, and it's probably going to take a little bit to digest what's happening today.
Go ahead, Douglas. You have something to say?
The experience as a candidate. Oh, okay. We're going to Sam.
Going to say bye, Sam. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Really.
Guys.
Okay,
Absolutely.
take care.
What was the most memorable thing for you as a candidate? What are you going to remember?
Visiting schools, like obviously I'm a teacher, but I mean I got to visit like schools and different school boards. I managed to go see the school. Sorry, I got to visit the schools in Moosonee. So I got to visit the public elementary school and the public Catholic school in Moosonee and James Bay. So to me, that was a very good experience. It is a 5-hour train ride to get up to the coast. So it was great that I got to go up there and meet people and door knock and meet with the municipality. And because, I mean, unfortunately, James Bay doesn't get the attention it deserves. They don't often make the news unless something really bad happens. And in terms of water, in terms of a suicide crisis, or in terms of an evacuation. So the important thing is I really hope that the people of James Bay get a bit more of a voice and get what they need to thrive and move forward. So I'd say my trip to Moosonee was very much a highlight or something that I'm very proud that I got to do.
And I know it's probably a little early to ask, but are you thinking of doing it again?
A little early. We'll see what the final results yield. It doesn't look like I'm going to be successful this time around, but we'll see. I mean, I've learned a lot. Like I did manage my own campaign, so I definitely am a lot wiser and have a lot more of a knowledge of how things work. So who knows? We'll see in 4 years what happens. But as you can see, my vote share is a bit lower than what we thought we were going to get. So so we'll see. But
we'll keep fighting.
It's very hard to change minds. I mean, this riding has been NDP for 32 years, looking like we're going to get 36. So it's hard to change minds, and to people typically struggle with making a big leap, a big leap of faith or a change. So it is a very big union-oriented community. So diverging from NDP is going to be tough. But I might do it in 4 years. I don't know. We'll see where I'm at that point in my life. But I'm not closing the door. I learned a lot. It was a great experience, and I did enjoy every minute of it. So we'll see.
Well, we want you to stay in touch.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight and making some time for us. And thank you for granting us the interview, and
really
as well
for
we do, and for the kids that don't know who are watching us in English, Matthew allowed us to do our first episode en français as well by giving us an interview in both languages. So he stayed with us and basically did it all again. So and we really appreciate that very much.
Really do.
Our best to your family and to your team.
Thank you. And once again, I was very proud to be able to be your first in terms of French podcast. And I'm very happy for the opportunity. And thank you for having me here once again. And all the best to you as well.
Thanks for coming in, brother.
Merci beaucoup, Mathieu.
Okay.
Bonsoir, mon ami.
Bye. Because we're cutting into James' time, we're gonna wrap this up rather inelegantly.
It happens.
Um,
You know what? It's been a heck of a night.
Yes.
It's been a lot of fun. I loved having all the guests in.
Yes, great guests.
Great guests. And thank you for all the chat windows. We've been monitoring them and trying to jump in to say props, but thankfully Rook has been posting up some really good comments.
Yeah.
It's been a hell of a night, sir.
Yeah, it's been a crazy night. I know, a lot of us are probably, clearly not pleased. Some of us might be sad, some might be despondent. And I just want you to know, I've been through this before back when Harper won his majority. That's how I ended up starting the blog. And, I had that moment when he won. After everything he's done and after all the yelling and screaming we did, he still won anyway. So that's it. I'm packing up. I'm checking out. I can't stand to watch for the next 4 years. Oh, there's my beaver, sweetie. Thank you. He had good news today, by the way. I'm so proud of you, baby. Yeah, I wanted to check out, and I decided that, you know what? If you guys need a week,
Danielle, you're correct.
right? Danielle's right. Let's take a collective breath and then keep fighting. Yeah, you need a week. Take the week.
Take the week.
Okay, you've been through the ringer.
Yeah. You've earned time to take a breather, and then we'll get up and start fighting again.
Yeah.
And think of it this way. Dufoe has just given us 4 years of material.
So, one of the reasons we do this, and we monitor stuff and we look at stuff and we bring it to you so you don't have to, or if you don't have the time. So, it's a saying I got from a podcast, another podcast that I like called The Daily Beans. But if you need to drop out of the race for a while, hand us the baton. We'll run the leg for you. And when you're ready to join again, please come back because we need you in the fight. Remember, this is time to hold space, hold space, hold space. So, I wanted to check out. I took my time too, and then I came up and I started the True North Eager Beaver blog on Facebook, and it's been 11 years since I did that. So again, you are perfectly.
We'll make it through this together.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with you. You're committing the cardinal sin of being human. Yes. Allow yourself to have the frustration. Allow yourself to have the sadness, the anger, but then use it as fuel, and then come back and listen to us. And hopefully we'll have some laughs, interesting perspective, great guests.
And I'll keep shouting down old drug fraud.
Dougie Dimebag.
Can I pop in just for a second? Just for a second.
Absolutely.
I was hesitant on doing this because I thought, I don't want to do a political show. I was gripped by this entire episode of the show. This was fantastic. I love you guys. You guys did a great job. You brought us through this, and you took a really shitty message that we obviously have received and made it easier to digest. And I appreciate you guys and everything you've done. Really great job. Great job tonight.
Thank you so much, and thank you for helping us.
Yes, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't do this alone, right? The quality of our guests, right? A lot of these people,
Rook taking care of all our tech in the background.
Just a genius. I mean, he gave us the groovy graphics, the promos. I mean, this is, trust me.
And the boss, Dean, who gave us his space. This is Dean's space that we're using.
Yes.
He didn't have to do that, but he did. So good on you, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you liked watching this, we loved making this for you. Please listen to our podcasts when you can. If you would like to support us to do more, we work for tips. You can buy a pint of Guinness for Mr. Grizzly over here because he's definitely going to need it. I'm definitely taking a Caesar. You can do that at our coffee page. That's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word and lowercase letters. Oh my God, we're seeing all the love come in.
Thanks,
thank you so much, everybody, for staying with us. And I mean, the compliments. Holy, wow.
Warms the cockles of my heart. Now, let's go for a pint. Now, I'm not drinking right now. I'm not drinking.
Okay.
I can't drink now. Not after that results. No.
Oh, really? Those are the results that would drive me to drink. And I hardly drink at all. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Thank you to Pete Jarvis for our artwork. We love it.
Thanks to Rook for the artwork for this show.
Yes.
My goodness.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I don't know if there's anybody we forgot. If we did, I'm so sorry. And James, we are sorry to have kept in your time. But thank you for your generosity and for coming on our show. Thank you to all our guests. Thank you to everyone who watched. We love you. Yeah, let's make some shit happen.
Let's, as our friend Holly says, get out there and fuck shit up.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Perfect.